Hello, and welcome to the Super 70 Podcast. Special report, Joking with Dave Anderson. Welcome to another special report with Dave Anderson. Before we begin, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to my listeners. Most of you jumped on board after I invited Mike White from the projection booth to guest host the Pulp Fiction episode, and many of you stayed. Thanks to Mike, and to you. In another update, I'm going to take a month or two to prep for the next decade, which Dave and I have already planned. So you won't be hearing from the Super 70 podcast for a while, possibly March. But it's all good. We've got some exciting ground to cover in the next 10 episodes. We'll be back. And now for the podcast. Dave and I hung out in the Hacienda after the Social Network podcast to talk about a myriad of issues concerning the present and future of cinema. For instance, why are cinephiles increasingly turning away from spoilers? What value is there in Anna Hathaway Kaiju Movies? Is Taxi Driver a successful model for Joker? We go off the deep end discussing the now infamous Marvel versus Scorsese fight. But most importantly, how do you order your Criterions? By Alpha or by Spine? Are you ready now?
I'm still ready. I've checked. I am still ready.
You know what makes me ready?
I do not. Helichella?
Helichella.
Damn right. I've got an art car. So we're dealing with the, not necessarily, they're definitely the competing major minor breweries in Houston. Yeah. St. Arnold and Carbach.
I found an IPA in my fridge, and I did not put
Must
it
be
there.
mine.
And I suspect it was yours, so I put it in here too.
What was it?
I don't know. It's a blue can.
It's probably an art car.
No, hipster.
Oh, that was mine, yeah.
Hipster.
Hipster sauce?
Yeah.
It's a...
I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't touch it.
It's not bad.
Well, I had the art card the other night at the old 97.
Yeah, and it's kind of a nice introduction to an IPA. I mean, you get some of the West Coast ones that I really like, and they, like I said, they'll rip your tongue off. It's phenomenal. But you can't just walk right in and start doing that. Everything will go bad.
St. Arnold's art car is a nice flyover IPA.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I hate that phrase, by the way.
Flyover?
That is such an inherently offensive term.
Yeah, that's why I use it.
Yeah, I know.
That's how we're looked at.
I know, and it's like it's no wonder the elitists are shocked all the time. Like,
well, you say West Coast.
Yeah,
but
there's West Coast and an East Coast IPA.
Oh,
they're distinct styles.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so,
well, you were a brewmaster, which I never was. So you know a whole lot more. You brewed beer for a living at one point in time.
For a little bit of time.
Yeah, and I have not. So you're more educated when it comes to hoppy things.
Right. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely different flavor profiles. You got your hazy, you got your West Coast, you got your East Coast IPA, and they're all very good in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And could you call it a Third Coast IPA? Sure.
Oh, really? You think there's a distinctive Third Coast?
No, I just said that because I like the sound of it. I think it sounds better, and I'm all in favor of the microbrews and doing exceptionally well, and IPAs have been dominating the microbrew market it's been a really long time now. I mean, I don't know if it's ever going to really go away. It's too strong of a style to really maintain its dominance that it has, but I mean, it keeps going. Mm-hmm. People still want an IPA, and... it's always shocking to me.
As long as they pay for it.
Yeah. I think that at this point, there always will be a market for it. I certainly hope. It just always cracks me up when the big boys start doing the pseudo craft brews, and invariably they do okay versions, but they're still never as good as the true independents.
Like all of the Budweiser line that came out to compete with Dog's Head Fish Ale.
Yeah, and Dogfish
Head Ale.
Dogfish Head.
Yeah, whatever the hell it is.
But man, they make a good beer. They are just remarkably inconsistent.
Yeah, but there was a while there, and I only know this because I saw something on Netflix, which was they put out this type of beer, and it was like the next week.
Right.
Budweiser pushed a beer out that was the same color tone on the label. And
I mean, they're good at what they do. Yeah. They really are. But it always cracks me up. What was it? Was it a commercial for Bud Light where they have the ingredients now listed on the case, and it's like water, barley, hops, rice, and you're like, rice ain't supposed to be there. It's like, rice is not a good thing to have in your beer. That's not good. But it's like, well, okay, I guess you're being transparent, but not enough of the general public realizes that those adjuncts usually don't add anything of value. It just cheapens the product and makes it easier to mass produce. And I'm in favor of mass production, and I don't have a problem with Budweiser or Bud Light or anything. I'm not drinking it, but it's got a place and it's fine. But it's like I look at it and just go,
I'm not a purist or anything like Reinheitsgebot or whatever. The German beer purity law. You have some people who are like, if it does not follow Reinheitsgebot, it is not. Like,
I'm kind of like that. If it doesn't follow it, I'm not necessarily going to dismiss it, but I'm going to look at it a little suspiciously. Yeah. But, I mean, there's a lot of different things where I'll have it where it doesn't fall within these very strict parameters, and it's fine.
I love the Helichella.
Helichella's, they do. Carbach got a lot of shit for getting purchased.
Carbach's doing a pretty good job of
pretty good
keeping my interest.
Yeah.
In fact, that leads me to, I'm going to add something at the end of my endless list of shit to talk about.
What we need to do is do a microbrew tour of Houston, because there's quite a few of them now. It's kind of insane. Yeah. I think we've got 30. It's fucking bananas. And, of course, the fourth largest city in the country, so it makes sense that it would be. But, I mean, some of them are really good. Like Eighth Wonder makes some freaking good brews.
Yeah, I like the Dome Foam.
Dome Foam is really
good.
What it is, it's really good. Right.
It's like if Bud was good, it'd be Dome Foam.
I can get on board with that. Buffalo Bayou makes the weirdest beers in Houston for sure, and their stuff is, generally speaking, very good. But it's definitely weird.
And I know it's not an independent anymore, but I still like Shiner.
I like Shiner fine. I mean, I'm not going to hold not being an independent against anybody. Like, I also drink Carbach, and they're not strictly independent, as long as they're still making their own beers and they're just getting an influx of cash to increase their business. Well, it doesn't bother me at all.
This is the perfect opener.
Yes, we're talking about
for the bonus episode.
For the bonus episode.
Yes.
We're talking about total beers.
Before we get into movies.
Okay, so getting into movies.
Yes.
Right, real quick.
Yes.
So, we were setting up for this, and I looked over your shoulder. Well, you weren't there, so I wasn't looking. But where your shoulder currently is, where you have your Criterion collection.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you have them set up in alphabetical order.
Not spine number.
Not spine number.
Right.
This.
So I could find them.
Oh.
You have yours by spine number?
I got mine totally by spine number. And I can, generally speaking, find what I'm looking for.
Really?
Yeah.
I would need a directory.
Well, that's part of your personality. I'm kind of surprised you just don't have a Dewey Decimal System to find all of your media.
Well, I used to.
I know. So why would it stop now? Too busy?
It just kind of got lost. Like when I was a kid, I had a VHS collection, and I put 3 movies on a VHS tape.
That's when you rode your woolly mammoth to school and shit like that.
Yeah, back in the day. Long ago. Yeah, so long ago. And every time my mom went to Target, she would just pick up a couple of blank tapes at Target.
Right.
And this was back when you could easily record VHS off of
regular
broadcast TV
or HBO.
HBO, yeah. I had hundreds of videotapes, and so I suppose I had thousands of movies, and I had to card catalog them. So I had a 3x5 card system, an index card, and I tagged each one through the alphabet: A1, A2, A3. Well, actually, no, it was A1, B1, C1. So you went through the alphabet and then to Z1, and so the first 26 tapes. And so then I had a 3x5 card with every movie on it with the identifier. So if I wanted to find Back to the Future, I went through the card catalog system to find Back to the Future, and it would say Z1. Right. And then that's what tape it was on, because obviously you couldn't record them in alphabetical order. That's impossible. Sure. So I had several of those series. I had A2 and then A3 and then A4. And I still have some floating around here somewhere, and I've even got this VHS to DVD recorder, which...
Holy shit, you do.
Yeah, which I found. Don't ask me. It's a 20-minute story. But I got it, and I even bought a 20-foot HDMI cord. Okay. This is one of the first HDMIs ever on the market.
So it's got VHS, DVD, and
HDMI, which I went ahead and roped around the study to feed into the HDMI 2 port on the screen. So
I did that so I could just very easily swap things here instead of walking up to the console.
Because that is a distance. I'm giving you.
Yeah. It says something about my devotion to movies that I don't want to get up and walk across the room to change the channel.
Right.
You know, I think of Jack Lemmon, The Apartment, with Shirley MacLaine. He's got the clacker on the whatever the fuck coffee table. Anyway, yes, so that's what so I could not do spine numbers. Like I would know that Seven Samurai is in the beginning because that's like 2 or 7 or something. But I couldn't remember. But I couldn't remember anything else.
Yeah, okay.
I do know that sale that you told me about last month, where it was
50% off.
50% off of Criterion. So
what'd you get?
I got.
We can come back to it.
I don't remember what I got, but Luke wanted Silence of the Lambs.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a
Detour. I got Detour.
I got Detour as well
on Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I haven't watched it yet.
And Silence of the Lambs on Blu-ray as well.
Okay, cool.
You know, and just last week I was listening to the projection booth, and what movie did they go over? I can't remember it. And it's December, so I think they're doing sci-fi. The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Okay.
And there was a woman who was talking about the Criterion release of The Man Who Fell to Earth, which I haven't gotten yet. I want it really bad because I'm a David Bowie fan. And she was talking about how Criterion was slipping the past couple of years on their bonus features.
Well, they're definitely they've gone away from commentaries, as you know. It wasn't standard, but it was pretty common, and it seems to be a lot less common now.
Why is that?
I think a lot of it is, and this is speculation as opposed to any potential part of knowledge. I think that back in the Laserdisc days and the early DVD was that people weren't expecting any kind of compensation. That's kind of the impression I get. Those people just come in and they talk about it'd be an afternoon. They'd sit there and talk about it. But I think now that there's more of an expectation of the participants to get some kind of money. And I think I think that's as much as anything. I could be totally off base and don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Well, I definitely don't know what I'm talking about, but I think I've read that somewhere.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. You know, that was one of Charlie Sheen's big problems at the end of his whole tenure at Three Men. What is it? Yeah, 3.5 Men, 2.5 Men.
Yes.
This TV show was you're putting out these DVDs and there's all this bonus content, and I didn't get paid for any of that shit.
Right.
And that's perfectly valid.
I totally get it.
Yeah, as an actor, particularly a working actor, you're with a union. Your image is being used to sell
totally
stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah, commentaries. I mean, I understand that. But we are in a world in which everything is just sliding down to we want it for free.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, we want our software for free. We want our music for free. Right. And now it looks like we're moving the opposite way on movies, though. I remember there was a time like I will watch bullshit shot in a Chinese theater with bad subtitles because it's free.
Right.
And people were downloading that. And I remember the whole scandal over the Phantom Menace and all of that. But now it seems like people are moving the other way of, no, I want to see it in a theater.
I don't know if that's accurate.
BitTorrents seem to be sliding away.
Well, I think BitTorrents are probably getting sliding away because I'm guessing is you're getting a lot more proliferation of legitimate streaming services. Right.
Well, they're paying for it.
Well, yeah, but it's a flat fee.
It is a flat fee,
and it is.
It's a low fee.
And it's fairly competitive, right? I mean, Netflix is what,
Netflix and Hulu is $4.99, and I mean the Disney Plus is like $6.
Yeah, it's a perfect spot, and that's my guess. I don't know. I think that I don't know if people are willing to pay to see them in the theater or not. And so much of it is so out of whack because the cost per ticket has gone up so much, right? Because once upon a time in Hollywood made a good deal of cash. Yes. But I don't know how many individual viewers that equals, and
a lot of that was repeat.
Right, and so I don't have a good feel for that at all. We know that there's some things that, to a certain degree, are taste-proof, right? Which doesn't mean they're bad, right? I mean, the new Star Wars movie is going to make a lot of money, and it almost doesn't matter if it's good. Right, it'll still make a lot of money,
just like the last two.
Right, I thought we're going to right.
That sidebar.
Yeah, it's sidebar, but the thing I was thinking about this earlier today is this year, I can't think of a whole lot of movies I actually wanted to see, but it seems like right now there's actually a pretty significant number that I'm either interested in that are either out or are coming out. Now, will I get a chance to see them? It's unlikely. Yeah. Just because life.
I'd have to go through my list. I've got the list up on my whiteboard, and I'd have to see how many of those are this year as far as new releases. Luke and I were talking the other day. We went to go see Ford v Ferrari.
I want to see that.
Yeah, and of course I'm one of those people. You know, I can't believe this, but I'm a huge cinephile, but I don't give a shit about what's coming out until I walk through that door.
What do you mean?
Like I went there, I just saw the poster and I saw one trailer and I said, Matt Damon, Christian Bale, Ford, Ferrari, I'm in.
Cars, you're in.
I love the Shelby Cobra Mustang. You know, I'm a big Mustang fan and I know everything. Well, not everything, but I'm familiar with the Carroll Shelby legend because I'm a GT fan. But, you know, I walked in that theater and sat down and I saw that credit by James Mangold. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be great.
So you weren't really aware that
clueless.
Okay.
Clueless. And there were people popping up in it that I was like, oh, that guy. Well, yeah. I didn't know that he was in this either.
Well, is that due to your lack of interest, or is that more due to kind of a concerted effort not to be spoiled by shit, which is kind of where I'm going?
Well, both. I don't want to be spoiled by shit.
Right.
That's increasingly pissing me off.
Yeah, and it's really no different than it always has been.
Right. It hasn't. Yeah. The theaters themselves were very horrible about spoiling stuff for you in order to get you to come and see it. And somewhere around The Force Awakens, I was like, that's it.
Done.
I don't want to know. I'd done it selectively in the past. Like I remember specifically for The Matrix Reloaded.
Right.
I was like, I don't want to see anything. I don't want to know anything.
Less I know the better.
Right. Because I went into The Matrix completely blind. Yeah. I went to Fight Club completely. I saw one trailer for Fight Club.
So okay, I mean.
So yeah. So I'm going to the other part of it is like I just do not like. I used to be that guy who went on the Dark Horizons.
Yeah, I would too.
And just had to know everything. Right. And there's nothing to Garth Franklin who runs that site or Ain't It Cool News or whatever. That's what they want to do. I don't want to put it down for people who want to know. I just don't want to know.
Right. No, I've gotten to the same point.
I want the experience.
Because like the new Star Wars movie, I think I saw the first trailer and I've kind of, I
haven't seen any of it.
And I saw it and I was like,
It comes on the theaters, and my kids make fun of me. I literally put my fingers in my ears and I rub them back and forth, and I hum.
I'd make fun of you too.
And people, and when my kids elbow me to say it's over, and then people are looking at me like you're a fucking weirdo, and I don't care. I just don't want to be spoiled. Last year, the year before, I took Luke cold into Colossal.
I don't know that.
It's and we had to drive into the city to see it, but. It's a Anne Hathaway Kaiju movie.
Okay. That's one where she's an alcoholic and like the monster mimics her movie. Yeah, I've not seen. I know of it though.
Great film.
I've heard it's actually
great film. I did not. All I heard was Kevin Smith on Smodcast talk about. All I'm going to say, Anne Hathaway Kaiju movie. That's it. Go see it. And I said I got to see that.
I'll take that.
And so I took Luke, and he had no fucking clue. He just saw a monster on the poster. Anne Hathaway's not even on the poster.
Okay.
Just saw a monster. Walked in, and Jason Sudeikis was in it, and we walked away again like pumping our fists. Yeah, that was
expect anything.
Maybe not a great movie, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I like having that feeling.
Yeah, it is nice, and it's pretty uncommon where you can walk out and say, "Man, that was so much better than I would have guessed it would have been."
Or deserved to be.
Right. Or, and the less you know about it, the higher the odds of that happening.
Yeah, because it could have been the shock value. It could have been one of those films that you could have walked out of and like, well, that was okay.
Yeah. But if you had any expectations or knowledge, it would have been maybe very different.
I like not having any expectations.
Oh, I do too. I do too. But, movies have gotten so expensive to go see and correlate.
Yeah, that's one of my questions that we're going to talk about later.
What's that?
We'll get there in time.
Okay.
But so
I tell you what, though, there is a shit ton of stuff that's coming out that I want to see.
Yeah, the good year we were talking about.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's a good year or not. It'll be one of those that at the end of the year have kind of tracking it. But you have, so there's Ford v Ferrari, which I want to see, and I haven't. And I've heard it's quite good.
The Irishman.
The Irishman, I still want to see, and that's just driving me crazy that I haven't seen it. Nicole didn't know it existed. And she was like, "Oh, I saw it." And she was flipping through Netflix. I think it was at work. And I'm like, we got to watch that with Dave. So she couldn't watch it, which I really totally love her and appreciate that. She's like, "Oh yeah, we got to watch this." But there's 1917. I think that looks, like, really intriguing. What else was there? There was a bunch of stuff, actually. There was the Helen Mirren.
With Ian McKellen.
Yeah, that looks really good. The Best Liar or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm so out of it right now in regards to.
You should just read up my list over there and see. And that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Of course. Yeah, I'm talking about ones that haven't come out yet.
Well, we got a Bond film coming out next year.
Yeah,
that looks interesting.
I did see saw the trailer for it. It was like, yeah, it's a Bond movie. Okay, hang on a second, and please, people. Knives Out. I really want to see.
Knives Out. Yeah.
That looks.
I want to see Motherless Brooklyn, which is out of theaters.
Yeah, that looks very good. I don't want to see Cats. There's like 4 or 5 other things, and it's just not calling up on any site that I was looking at.
In a couple of weeks, they're showing Taxi Driver.
Are they?
In River Oaks.
That's an old movie.
And that doesn't qualify for what we're talking about. No. But Luke wants to see it pretty bad.
But but I mean that is not a feel good flick, but it's freaking good. Yeah. But there was just a high line.
Feel good.
It is certainly not that. But it's kind of one of those things where it's a classic. I mean, and it got remade. Yeah. So
Taxi Driver got remade.
Yeah, Joker. It's Taxi Driver. You know that, right? It is. He makes up his whole reality. His relationship with the neighbor is very similar to what Robert De Niro's relationship in his mind was with Sybil Shepherd. He wants to be worshipped, so he goes on this killing spree at the end to rescue Jodie Foster or impress Ronald Reagan. I can't remember. And then in Joker, it's the same type of thing, although it's not as necessarily on purpose. But he is celebrated. It's one of those things where in Taxi Driver, you remember after it ends, not after it ends, but at the end of it, after the shootout,
he's in the cab with her.
He's in the cab with her, but she knows of the event, right? So you get this impression that it's been kind of glorified and,
in the press,
in a vigilante press sort of way, which, she was, you kind of get the impression that either she's impressed with his actions or he's interpreting her as being impressed. It's kind of unclear, right? But in Joker, I mean, he definitely does a similar type of action, and but it's not subtle there, right? There's this whole group of yahoos who thinks he's great. But I mean, I thought it was a total Taxi Driver. If not a remake, then, I mean, it's stronger than an homage. That's for sure.
Well, I definitely saw the homage. And I got a lot of things down here about the Joker for us to go through. I mean, I had read that about the similarities, and I suppose that the chasm of difference for me was that at the end of Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle was going to assassinate a politician.
Right.
And I wouldn't say he chickened out at the last moment. I'd say that at the last moment, he realized that unlike his previous actions, say in Vietnam, because he was a veteran,
right?
The bodyguards were tipped off, and he didn't think he was going to make it out alive.
Right. He made a conscious decision.
He made a conscious decision to stop it not because it was going to be a bloodbath, because he was perfectly fine with it being a bloodbath.
Yeah, he just didn't think it would be successful.
But like every soldier, they don't go into combat thinking, I'm not getting out of this. They go into combat thinking there is a reasonable chance of success, and I'm going to survive this, and I'm going to go home.
Right.
And I didn't see that. And so the finale where he ensues. The bloodbath ensues, and he barely survives that.
Right.
That could have just as easily been the
shootout in the broad daylight with a politician and tons of dead people lying around. So to me, he was equating them. One bloodbath was no different than the other bloodbath. And just because it took place in a harlot's den, the press created they glorified him because he would have been a demon instead of an angel.
Sure.
Right. And,
but I think that's one of those reasons why
I didn't see that in Joker.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons. And don't get me wrong. I thought Joker was I'm glad they made the movie. Right. It's hard to say if you liked it. Right. I can certainly admire it, and I'm really glad it was made because okay, this is a really interesting take. I mean, you don't want to say I enjoyed it because I don't know if it's one of those.
Oh man, I think I enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, that's fine, but it's also one of those that it's so Raging Bull. Another Scorsese.
Did not enjoy it.
I think that's great. I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, but it's also one of those that you really, at the end of it, it's okay, I'm going to go shower. Right, because these people are all terrible and it's all grimy and this is just rough, but it's so well done, right? That's kind of how I felt about Joker. Not that I thought it was near as good as Raging Bull, because it's just not. But I think it was really good, and I'm glad they made it because it's okay, this is really interesting. Right. You guys aren't doing the same thing, or you guys are, you're just trying to sell the story you're trying to make. You're not trying to check any boxes, right?
Yeah.
Which was really refreshing. But I mean, I did think it was highly influenced by, and that's not a criticism, but I do think that Taxi Driver is a much better movie. Duh, I know. But it's also one of those where, like what you were talking about.
I don't think that's a duh. I think that Joker, Taxi Driver is a classic.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
But I mean, the things you were talking about, it's okay, he made this decision not to shoot the politician, the press,
But there was no point. The Joker never had that chance. There was no time in which the Joker was going to do something heroic, even though he saw himself as a heroic person.
Well, I don't think Travis Bickle did anything heroic.
I think Bickle was able to sell himself off as heroic after he slaughtered 4 or 5 people.
I don't think he tried to sell himself, right?
I think he tried to sell himself to Jodie Foster as heroic.
Okay, I think that's fair.
And to Sybil Shepherd, right?
Well, certainly, but he was. I don't know if he was. I understand your point. I don't know if I
get that they're both creating fantasies,
right? I can retract.
So that to me is why it didn't seem like that much of a remake to me, other than the.
And remake may have been a bit strong, right? But it was definitely my impression was it was trying to be a Taxi Driver for the now.
I could see it using Taxi Driver as a model. Mm-hmm. Certainly the entire William Friedkin / Martin Scorsese New York, environment, the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. And the list is endless. The 7-Ups, just how New York looked, and recently The Kitchen with Melissa McCarthy, which
shockingly enough did not see it.
Most people did not see, and I think most people are missing something. It's not this great thing,
but it's better than good.
But it was way better than I expected it to be.
Okay.
And she has zero comedy in it,
really,
which I think is what sells it.
Which is probably why it didn't make a whole lot of money.
It was probably because they went to go see her, and then why is she not funny?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see it. I know what it is though.
Yeah, and James Badgedale was in it. It was anyway. That environment is completely Taxi Driver-esque, but so was Bringing Out the Dead.
Oh, sure.
So it's not an unknown
it's also
trope.
One of those things where popular entertainment over the past 5 years or whatever, it's not exclusively due to the Marvel movies, but definitely influences. It's pretty clean, and that's fine. That's not a criticism. I don't want all my entertainment to be gritty. That's why the DC universe didn't really work all that well, because it was gritty, but it wasn't done well. Whereas the Joker was really gritty, and I thought was done really well.
Right. Yeah. Well, Deadpool would be the gritty side of Marvel,
right?
The Fox side, which might be going away now.
I doubt it. I hope not, at least.
I hope not either. And they were talking about enveloping the X-Men into Deadpool and taking in that direction.
Did you watch the Marvel Netflix shows?
I did. Yeah. Well, I watched Jessica Jones season 1 and then all of Daredevil.
I mean, because those are much more.
They're grittier.
Marvel.
Yeah.
I mean, much more than Deadpool.
Jessica Jones is a mind fuck.
Yeah,
like
it
that.
is. It's
That's
really well
really
done.
hard. Yeah. And Luke tells me I need to watch The Punisher. I'm halfway through Iron Fist. I'm having a hard time finishing
Iron Fist
it.
is not good.
Yeah, everybody says
It's not
that.
good. You're not. I mean, it's not good.
But I hear The Defenders is entertaining.
It's good.
Yeah, so
But
I need to finish all
Punisher is
that.
a rough watch. I've only watched season 1. I haven't watched season 2 yet. Luke Cage is season 1 is not the first.
I
half
like
of
that
season,
actor, the guy who plays.
Yeah, he's really good. The first half of season 1 is pretty good, and then it tails off quite a bit. And season 2 is really interesting, and it's unfortunate it got canceled because at the end of season 2, you're like going, "Okay, I'm really interested to see where
Yeah,
it
it's
goes."
going in someplace good. Yeah.
And the
Well,
Daredevil-
hopefully Disney
The
Plus
Hulu.
picks up 1 or 2 of
I think
those
you're supposed to do it on the Hulu.
on the Hulu.
Yeah, I think Hulu will be Disney's more adult focused.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Okay. Well, what I saw in the Joker, and I specifically asked you to watch it so you talk about it, is I saw the controversy around the film and mental health. Just it seemed like everyone who had a comment about the Joker and mental health just A, didn't watch the fucking movie,
Right.
or B, didn't know anything about mental health. It just seemed like they Todd Phillips specifically, they called him out and used all kinds of names and called him careless and uncaring about people who were struggling.
It's all
with,
about people who are trying to get likes on the internet.
That going back to the social network, that's the world that we live in now. But I saw why the Joker was the way that he was without watching an origin movie.
Yeah, I didn't need that.
You didn't need that?
Go on.
Well,
what I was getting at was, there's part of me that, okay, go on. I'll come back to it. To it, or I won't.
I wasn't interested in another origin movie, and I don't think that this was an origin movie, but I saw a very realistic reasoning as to why he turned out to be the person that he was. That was what was a rational progression of a mixture of very bad things happening in society,
Right.
and very bad decisions on his part. And so there, not to blame everything on society, but there was a lot of individual choices that he was making that were not very good, and it was why he was evil. But if you're struggling with mental health issues, it's going to be harder to make those correct determinations. And we live in a world in which there's a lot of people out there struggling with those types of situations, and they buy guns and they walk into schools, and it's a fucking nightmare. And here's a movie that has the bravery to take that topic and explore it and run with it and tell a story in a comic universe,
Right.
That addresses that problems. And this happening the same month as one of our greatest auteurs, Martin Scorsese, comes out and says, "That's not fucking cinema." There's no risk in that. And they look at the Joker. The Joker's full of risk.
Yeah, I mean, I'm conflicted on that. I find it very strange because it's one of those where I understand what Scorsese is saying and I agree to a degree, but it's also one of those things where the comic movies of now are no different in my mind than the westerns of the series
Right.
of the 30s.
Exactly.
Right? They're
Exactly.
There's always a place for that kind
Or
of...
Tom Mix in the 20s.
It's just kind of the way there's always a place for pop entertainment, in my opinion. But I think my speculation is that he was referencing more that, like, okay, this is all we have right now. Which
that's not true either.
I know it's not true, but it's also definitely the dominant media entertainment from the movie perspective right now, right? There's not a whole lot of... I mean, if you look at the top 10 box office hits of this year, I mean, you do have 2 movies that are adult focused, right? At least I'm presuming.
Well, I mean, this is why we have boxofficemojo.com.
Right. I mean, because I'm assuming in the top 10 of 2019 you have, Joker and Once Upon a Time. Beyond that, I would think that the remainder are going to be exclusively superhero and animated, which is an imbalance.
I have domestic for 2019.
Right, so you have the Avengers Endgame, number one, I presume. It made like.
Well, and Captain Marvel came out this year too, didn't it?
I don't know. I think so.
Yearly. Avengers Endgame obviously is number one.
Right.
Lion King number 2, Toy Story number 4, Captain Marvel Toy Story 4 number 3. Thank you. Captain Marvel number 4, Spider-Man Far From Home number 5, Aladdin number 6, Joker number 7, Frozen number 8, It Chapter 2 number 9, 10 is Us. So you are literally talking about 8 out of the top 10 are Disney films.
Yeah. Well,
you know.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Well, 7 out of the top 10. Frozen 2, Aladdin, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Toy Story, Lion King, Avengers.
Yeah. And like I said, my speculation is what he was getting at was just too leaning that way.
Well, fine. I want to know, I'll do the research later, what Martin Scorsese film has dominated the box office ever?
Oh, never. I mean, yeah, it doesn't happen.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, Departed is probably his most financially successful.
Right.
Even that, I would be surprised.
And I'm not knocking the guy.
Oh, no. He's the best.
Yeah, but I have to say, but he's directed a lot more films than people realize. He's directed like over 30 features, right?
He's very prolific.
But if you were to ask me, which ones, like, I got to say the great majority of his films I really don't care for. But his good ones are as good as they get. Yeah. I even like Kundun.
Right.
Nobody else did. But I mean, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't like Bringing Out the Dead, but there's some people that swear by it, right? Yeah. But Marvel has had like 22 out of 23 hits. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that Scorsese gives a shit about what's a hit or not, because he doesn't, and I don't think there's any jealousy there. But his comments about risk don't make sense to me. I mean, Black Panther was a $170 million movie with an all-black cast.
Yeah.
How is that not a risk?
Do you really think that was a risk?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Captain Marvel.
If that would have been the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the fourth movie, maybe I could see it being a risk. But something tells me by the time it came out, very little. I mean,
that softened the blow,
right?
But I still think that's with a black director and a black screenwriter.
I suppose you might be right, but I mean, as soon as I saw the first preview, I'm like, yeah, it's gonna do fine. It's gonna do fine.
I foresaw it making a lot of money because of who was behind and in front of the camera. But you could say the same thing about a lot of Scorsese's films that flopped.
Yeah, but none of his stuff that I can think of is designed for mass entertainment. I mean, it's all designed for mass entertainment, but it's still a niche, right? I mean, he works within a, generally speaking, pretty specific zone. Right?
Well, for that matter, Marvel does.
No,
I think Marvel is after something very specific so that they can make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's an appeal to everybody, which I have no problem with.
And Scorsese's making something that's very specific because that's what he wants to do.
Yes.
And that would be the difference between auteur versus... Right. But if you ask Ryan Coogler, like Ryan Coogler did an interview with Christopher Tapley on the Playback when he worked for Variety. And he said that they asked him for his vision on Black Panther.
Oh, yeah.
And he did a presentation on what he saw Black Panther to be. And they adopted it and said, yeah, let's run with it. Let's expand that. And it was Kevin Feige who said that he was a Black Panther fan, blah, blah, blah. But it was Kevin Feige who bought into his vision, not the other way around.
Right. But there's also instances where that hasn't worked out, right? Because they had the Hulk or Ant-Man.
Edgar Wright famously was forced out of Ant-Man.
Right.
Right.
I don't know if that was a good choice or not, but...
I'm conflicted about it because I fucking love Ant-Man.
Yeah, I thought it was really entertaining.
But I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan, and I would really like to see what he would have done with Ant-Man.
But I would, to a certain degree, I'd rather Edgar Wright make Edgar Wright movies.
Right, and that's what he was going to do with Ant-Man, was make an Edgar Wright movie, and that's that's where the conflict with
So, I mean, I
Disney.
think that it's one of those things where they can certainly approve the director's vision and all that and get on board, but it's still, something tells me it still fits a pretty narrow...
Well, there are boxes to check,
right?
But there's boxes to check with anybody running a show. I mean...
Oh, yes, there is. But there are some... Okay, so Scorsese is part of the film brat generation, right? Yeah. And those guys were given a lot of leeway. Yeah. And I don't see how... I mean... How many filmmakers have movies now that really you feel like they can just kind of tell the story they want to tell the way they want to tell it? There's maybe 5?
Not that many, but there hasn't really, with the exception of the 70s. Right. There hasn't been that many at all.
No, I think you're wrong on that, because I think what happened is that I remember, lots of times where they weren't given $100 million, right? It was relatively small budgets, They were minimal budget, but they still got put out there. And now I don't think in the theaters you're seeing a lot of that. They're going to Netflix, right? They're going to HBO. They're going to...
Yeah, but I mean, Martin Scorsese famously said that when Netflix bankrolled The Irishman, it was basically, I mean, it wasn't a blank check, but it was a finite check, but there was no oversight.
Right. He got to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and the great majority of the filmmakers at Netflix, that's what they say, is Netflix basically just handed me the money, and they said, don't go over $3 million, and then...
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
Right.
And so, I mean, I see Netflix as sort of guarding that auteur...
Oh, absolutely. And that's right. And that's what I'm guessing that he was getting at, was that it's just kind of a shame that they're not getting exposure on the big screen. Because Martin Scorsese is very much a cinema guy.
Sure.
Right. It's not the motion pictures. It's going to the theater, seeing on the big screen.
I see what you're saying, and you and I both wanted to see The Irishman on the big screen. I went to go see it at River Oaks, right. and it was great. But I will say that the people who don't want Netflix on the big screen are these fucking snobs in Europe who won't let shit like The Other Side of the Wind play at Cannes because it's bankrolled by Netflix and they're not a real studio. Well, and that really happened. Right. And as a consequence of that, it rolled. And so the film festivals started saying, yeah, we don't know if we want that film in our festival because it's got Netflix money attached to it. And as a result, probably one of the greatest films of 2018 never got to enter the circuit. And Orson Welles was denied several chances to be nominated for an Oscar for Best Director and John Huston for Best Actor for a really fine film because we've got these people who think that film is only one end of art. And Scorsese's comments really, really, really point in that direction. And that's what's really upsetting to me, being such a fan of his.
Right. Well, I mean, you might be right, but I also know that for The Irishman, I mean, the impression I get reading the article is that Netflix really wanted to get into the theaters.
Oh, yes.
But AMC and some of the other large chains were not willing to understand.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
But, I mean, Netflix wanted to have it in theaters exclusively for, I think they were willing to push it to 45 days. Mm-hmm. And the theater's minimum agreed upon exclusivity was like 60 or 90.
Something like that, yeah.
Right? I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, it almost doesn't matter to me, right? I would have liked to have seen it had the opportunity to see it in the Cinemark, right? As opposed to have to get downtown, and I just didn't.
Yeah, when it's out on one theater.
Yeah, I just didn't make the time. I don't know. I'm not even exactly sure. Sorry.
That's all right.
Where we're going with that, to be honest with you.
Well, and on that note, I mean,
But I'm disappointed I haven't seen it yet. Twists me off. It's my own fault, and I find it very disappointing.
So this is one of my questions. Is Marvel cinema?
What about it?
Why not? Because to me, Marvel is cinema.
Oh, no. Marvel movies definitely are cinema.
Because Scorsese says it's not, because it doesn't have risk.
Look, he's an 85-year-old man. He probably is our greatest living director, but it's a lot of people whose opinions I don't necessarily agree with. I'll still take their art. I mean, I think it is cinema. I think it's also purposefully appealing to everybody, which is less risky, but that's fine. Yes.
Is there any risk in a Marvel film?
I think there's minimal risk.
Okay. Doctor Strange seems like a big gamble to me.
The original? Or
yes.
The first movie?
Yes.
It's only a big risk.
It's the first movie. There's only one.
They're coming out with a sequel. I know that.
Yeah, in like 2022 or something.
I think it's
yeah,
okay.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay. That's Benedict Cumberbatch in a very strange American accent in a world that's
they definitely
very well defined, but it's kind of, I mean,
it's a weird flick. It's an acid trip.
It's not a normal Marvel movie.
It is certainly not that. It's an acid trip.
There's a lot, right? And there's also themes in that movie about reality and what we judge reality to be, and then how do we interpret that?
Right.
Not to get too psychedelic with it, but those are real themes,
right?
It's kind of like Iron Man really raised morality questions. Sure. About Tony Stark and Elon Musk and how Howard Stark was a stand-in of this weird cross between Howard Hughes and Walt Disney.
Right.
And there was a lot of weird things going on in Iron Man that I thought were very culturally relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then putting him on the cover of Rolling Stone. And,
there's a lot of things, but it's also one of those where there are some things you would never expect a Marvel movie to ever do.
Like anything that was in Joker.
That would be very surprising. Yes. Right? If something like that happened in Doctor Strange.
Or Deadpool was very surprising for a Marvel movie.
Yes. And that was, since that was under the Fox
That was the Fox side,
so it's hard to really say, but I like if they had released something in the tone of their Netflix shows and the big screen, I think that would have been a risk.
Okay. That's
because you deal with some very unpleasant stuff.
But like we were saying before, with the Hulk and Iron Fist, Marvel has failed.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Well, have they failed, or have they just not succeeded as well as other ones? Have they ever had a failure?
Well, shit. Are they making another Hulk movie? No, they're not.
But I think they're not making a Hulk movie because of the agreement with them and Paramount, as opposed to...
Or could it... I'm sure that there is an agreement.
Or is it one of those where
that wouldn't shock me?
You just can't seem to make a Hulk movie
or
standalone. I don't know.
So is that not risk? Does failure denote risk? I think it does.
It does.
Right?
Yeah, I see that point.
Brie Larson, for all of her talent, is not known for being a very personable character on set.
Okay.
They threw her into a $130 million film, gambling that they would bring her back for Endgame and Infinity War, which they shot. They shot her scenes for Infinity War before Captain Marvel.
Right.
That to me is a risk.
Yes.
Yes. Logan. My God, how is Logan 9? I know that's on the Fox side of it. That's a James Mangold, Johnny Cash movie.
Yeah, it's
which they did in black and white and released on Blu-ray. That to me is a risk. Deadpool.
But that also is on the Fox side, and that does matter.
It is.
Right?
It's not under the Disney family banner, and Disney has different companies that they release, mature content
a lot less,
under.
Though.
Yeah. Francis Ford Coppola.
Mm-hmm. He just piled on because he's...
What's the last Coppola movie you saw?
Tucker, A Man in His Dream?
Okay. That's probably the last one that I saw.
It's probably not right, but it's probably pretty close.
Now, what's the last movie of his you saw in the theater?
Tucker,
A Man in His Dream. Okay, I saw that in the theater as well. Okay.
Coppola is not that relevant anymore. It's unfortunate.
The man, I still think that he's a master.
Well, of course.
And I still think that he puts out quality films.
And maybe that's what Scorsese was getting at, is that when's the last time Coppola even put out a movie?
Well, I think it was
Yeah, I think it's been over 10 years.
So
but
it's like, is it one of those
I think the
things
Rainmaker.
Is it one of those things where he's pushing to make a movie and nobody's willing to give him money unless it is something like The Rainmaker where it fits within these studio parameters? I mean,
he called it despicable. He called Marvel films despicable. Superhero movies despicable.
I didn't read all the articles, right? Yeah. So my opinions are going to be pretty minimal because I just don't know enough about it, right? Because it was one of those that I saw and it's like, this seems like one of those things that has no relevance to me in anything else, right? It's like, doink, I'm not watching it. I'm not reading this because I don't care. I'm going to watch people get all mad about some
clickbait.
It's like, I don't fucking care. He can say what he wants. It's like if Oliver Stone comes out and says something, it's like, yeah, I don't care what you have to say. I'm still going to see your movies, but I don't care.
Well, right. Okay. So this gets back to.
I don't really know. I mean, I know that I think Marvel movies come under a shit ton of unwarranted criticism, right? Where it's just like, they don't matter. And it's like, I think they matter. I think they're grand entertainment. And that matters a lot to me. But it's also one of those things where I think that the fear of smaller movies not getting made is way overblown. Because it may be on the Netflix. It may be on the Hulu. It may be small movies that get released. I mean, Dr. Sleep came out. Another movie I wanted to see.
Yeah, great movie.
I didn't see it.
Great movie.
But it was a relatively ambitious yet modest movie. But it was like, it seems interesting. That seems like a risky movie. Mm-hmm. Right? I think it's just one of those things where people we live in this outrage culture, and we probably always have, where people want to get mad about stuff.
Well, it's the outrage culture gets more print space now because of social media.
Sure. But like, I think the DC movies are incredibly risky relative to the Marvel ones.
No,
I don't think they're very good, but they're pretty risky.
They're very risky. I mean, Suicide Squad really left a bad taste in people's mouth. You know,
but it was pretty risky.
It was very risky. Yeah, no, for sure. And
I mean, Batman versus Superman's
very risky.
The way it's presented is pretty risky, but it's fucking terrible.
Yeah, I mean, both those films are confusing. But again, that goes back to what we were talking about with David Fincher and Alien 3. Right. Of the visual style is really conflicting with the storytelling.
Right.
Yeah. But it all goes back to the auteur versus collaborative art. Mm-hmm. You know, and we talked before about, you know, can The Godfather Part 2 exist without Francis Ford Coppola?
No.
And, you know, no, it can't.
And it can.
But it would not be. Yeah, nobody would be interested in seeing it. I'm not particularly a big fan of Black Panther.
No, I don't think it's that great.
I don't think it's. But you know, does that movie exist without Ryan Coogler?
No, I don't think so.
Could Spike Lee do it?
Sure,
but would it be remotely as good? I guess I'm saying is what I'm trying to get at. Good being
Spike
such
Lee's
a relative.
Excellent. He is excellent.
He's an excellent filmmaker.
So yes, him for sure.
Would it be a better film? Would it
be different?
It would be very different.
It might be better. I don't know. It might be. I'd love to see Spike Lee make a Marvel movie. That'd be fucking fascinating.
Well, and I think that's where Marvel is trying to, certainly where Lucasfilm is trying to go, is to get these independent auteurs.
Well, yeah, but then they get them in and then they fire them.
And they fire them, yeah.
Which I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, for all these movies that get made, you would love to see the alternate version, right?
Oh, I don't know. That alternate version of Rogue One does not sound very enticing at all. I don't know,
but the trailer was amazing.
The trailer was simply amazing.
I mean, it was probably the best Star Wars trailer, period. Yeah. And like, what, 30% of it ended up in the movie? Yeah. So I'd totally see it.
Yeah, Tony Gilroy cut most of it.
If the Snyder cut for the Justice League comes out,
I want to see that.
I'm going to watch that.
I want to see that because Justice League was a fucking travesty.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
it was so bad,
and there was no risk.
Yeah,
but there's no risk in that movie.
No, I mean it's so bad. But I'll watch. I probably won't like it because I didn't like the other Snyder DC movies. But it's like, I'll watch it because he's trying.
Yeah, but I mean, that goes back to, can Iron Man exist as we know it without Favreau? No, it cannot. Yeah. That was a huge risk. Thor Ragnarok, does that exist without Taika Waititi? I mean,
Yeah, but in a show that I don't really want to see, because the Thor movies I like, but they're not that great. Aside from that one, of course.
Right. Well, I mean, Ragnarok made more money than the first two combined. I mean, there was something going on there that...
It was really entertaining.
Yeah.
It was really entertaining.
I mean, that's the guy that did... I don't know if you've seen Jojo Rabbit yet.
No, but I know.
Oh, my God. It's just amazing.
But I saw What We Did in the Shadows, and that counts.
Yeah. So why is DC left out when I mean, they both of those guys specifically said Marvel movies?
Well, because they're not very successful. There's 3 or 4 Marvel movies
So
a
in order to have risk, you must have an element that is not successful. That doesn't sound like any. I mean, is that the goal of the Snyder machine at DC? Is let's create a movie that's not successful, so it can be then called art by auteurs who haven't made anything in 30 years. In Coppola's case.
Backtrack that to a singular phrase.
It's a singular person.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things where, let's face it. You remember the Muppet Show? Yes. You remember the old two old guys? Yeah.
Waldorf and
it's not Astoria, but
it's something.
That's just they're old grumpy guys. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I mean, who cares? Who cares? If Martin Scorsese doesn't like Marvel films,
well, ultimately, it does not affect my life.
No,
but it will help move more episodes of this podcast.
Oh, I didn't consider that.
Yeah, so in terms of clickbait.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, yeah, that's something I didn't even consider. But, I mean, fuck that guy. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Hack. Favorite director by far, Hack.
Okay, so going back to the Joker.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Backtrack.
Yeah.
Joker.
Yeah, well, I mean, we already covered a lot of this. Like, I mean, when I was watching,
so much of it was effective.
When I was watching the Joker and I was watching the environment, and I remember certain shots that were coming right out of my head from the French Connection and like the steam coming through the grate on the street.
Oh yeah, it was so well done.
There was so many things.
Todd Phillips,
and
freaking amazing.
Yeah, the production design and everything. And there were times where I was actually like, did Paul Schrader write this?
Probably could have. No, I mean,
it looked like a Paul Schrader movie.
Yeah, it did. I mean, none of it was clean. It was all ugly, and it was really good. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't know if I can say I, quote, enjoyed it, end of quote, but I really liked it.
I enjoyed it.
It's like, I don't know exactly how to best phrase it, right? But it's like, it's really well done. I'd watch it again, for sure. But it's definitely one of those things you walk out going, ugh.
Was it funny?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. How is it not funny?
I laughed several times at the film, even though I did have that sort of Tarantino, like, oh, I know I'm not supposed to be laughing at this. When the dwarf is trying to get out of the apartment.
That's funny.
Oh, my God. I felt so bad.
But it's only funny because, I mean, there was legitimate tension, right?
Huge tension.
And it's one of those things, it's funny because it's tension relief. That's why it worked. I mean, if it wasn't legitimately full of tension, I don't think it would be funny at all. Right. But I thought it was really, it was really funny because it was like, okay, this is so fucking terrible. No, I mean, I'm not conflicted on the movie at all. I think it was one of the best comic book movies I've seen. I can't really think of a whole lot that were better. I mean, it was really well done.
Is it topically late considering the whole Occupy Wall Street ending?
Don't care. I mean, I really don't care. I mean, I think that it's one of those things where based on the story they're telling, it made sense, right? I don't care about its relationship to the real world, just like I don't care if, they portrayed mental health fairly or accurate. I don't care. All I want is a compelling story that makes sense within its own universe, and that one to me did.
Well, it certainly did that.
I mean, I could give... I don't care about popular entertainment speaking about, quote, important matters, end of quote. If they're trying to, I'll probably dismiss it. It's like, it's pretentious fucking bullshit, and I don't have time for it. It could be one of those things where it touches on it and you can see and you can interpret it. That's fine. I just don't want to get beat over the head with it, and that's where I always have a problem with it. I mean, how many message movies does anybody truly enjoy? Nobody enjoys a message movie. What message movies do you like?
Oh, the Battle of Algiers.
Okay, that's not what I'm thinking of as a message movie. I mean, I'm thinking of message movies as those ones that just, oh God, No, I'm thinking of just ham-fisted bullshit. Grand Canyon message movies.
No. Yeah, not
That's what I think of message movies, where there's no subtlety. It's just purely blah. Here is my mission statement and my moral stance.
Well, no, okay, I get that. I think there's a way to convey the message without hitting you with the hammer.
And that's fine.
That's what I mean.
And that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want something that's open to interpretation.
Yes. Well, I think the Joker is heavily open to interpretation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's what always confused me about a lot of the online criticism that I saw is that, oh, what do you mean it's open for interpretation? It's supposed to be very obvious. Incels are bad. It's like, what? I don't understand. What, are you seriously getting mad because my movie doesn't tell me that people who kill other people are bad? I kind of know that people who kill people are bad. Fuck you.
If you can't get laid because of whatever problems you have going on in your mental or physical self, the Joker can't help you.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. But it's like, okay, so this was always...
Helicella.
Nope.
No, telephone.
Which is fine. There's a Helicella.
Helicella.
But like, people who got upset at, I think I've brought up something like this similar. I know people like my parents who, oh, we don't like The Godfather. Why? Because it glorifies gangsters. It's like, really?
Yeah.
It's like,
I didn't think that movie glorified gangsters at all.
It does. I mean, Goodfellas totally glorifies gangsters.
Goodfellas does glorify
but
gangsters.
But it's like, it's one of those that if you walk away saying, oh, man, I totally want to be a gangster, it's like, you're really...
You're fucked in the head.
I don't know what to tell you.
That's why I hate Scarface.
Yeah, it's like, really?
Yes, I can't stand Scarface.
But is that why you hate it, or
that's
not like it?
My main problem with Scarface is that it is essentially supposed to be a farce.
Yeah, it kind of is.
And De Palma, it's not like De Palma was joking, but he was hyper inventing the characters and the situations to the point to where there are most lines are absurd.
Yeah.
Like Montana saying, "Oh, just $1 million here, $1 million there, no problem."
That's kind of why I like it.
And well, that's why people do like it. And if that's where it stopped, that'd be fine. Unfortunately, that's not where it stopped. It doesn't stop. It goes on to people, and I mean real youths, tattooing TM on their arm and getting into that lifestyle because they worship Tony Montana.
So you don't like the movie because what stupid people do?
That's a good point. I don't like the interpretation of the film.
That's totally fair.
I don't like that interpretation.
But I really like.
But the film encourages that interpretation.
A lot of films encourage interpretation depending on how you view it. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of movies with a lot of terrible people that I find very compelling.
Yes.
Right, and there are definitely people who are inspired by that. Not necessarily inspired to go kill people or whatever, but I'm going to go get a tattoo of Tony Montana or whomever. I look at him and just go, hey, you're Nimrod. But I don't hold it against the movie necessarily. Like, I don't think Scarface is very good. I really don't. I don't think it's a very good movie. But I kind of admire how De Palma totally went for it.
Oh, I mean,
I kind of totally.
He was 110% there.
Yeah, I'm doing coke with you. I mean, I totally dig it. I don't really think it's compelling.
I think that it is compelling.
But I think that Michelle Pfeiffer was shockingly beautiful, as he usually is.
Okay.
Back to the Joker. One last question.
Oh, we're still not even... Okay, go on.
Does the network ending have a place?
I'm not sure if I understand.
Network with Faye Dunaway.
The network ending, though.
Yeah, like the Joker. Spoilers. You know, the Joker shooting Robert De Niro live on TV, and then that's right out of the network.
It was perfect. It's the way that movie should have ended. I'm not sure I understand the question though.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Is like I found the minute the Joker came out. First of all, the little cameo by Mark Maron being like Robert De Niro's little side. That was like perfect. Right. That was like perfect casting. And there's lots of that in the Joker that I think succeeds really well, down to the guys in the locker room and the girl down the hall. The casting is perfect.
No, it's really well made. Like I said, I think it's tremendously well made.
And even De Niro as the game, the talk show host, that's fine. It's a very good casting.
I really wish they would have gotten
somebody else.
No, well,
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon.
Like a real talk show host. Yeah.
Well, also someone who's got that. I don't think of.
Robert De Niro is having that personality.
He's not that guy.
He's not like a Johnny Carson type of guy.
He is not. But if, there's a lot of people like if you had Jamie Foxx.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It would have been totally great.
Yeah, I could buy that.
Yeah. I mean,
of course, that's my predilection for Jamie Foxx. I just
there are some people that just have that thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he's got it.
And I don't think of Robert De Niro as having that particular gift. I think he was good in it, but regardless of all that, I thought the ending. I thought that part was really well done.
Well, him coming out of the curtain and then like bitching at him, you made
his high horse moralizing shit.
Yeah, and then that was my least favorite part of the movie. Not that I can't live with it. I can live with it because I love the film. Part. Yeah, but it was awful. I don't know. I don't like Network. I just don't like Network.
I haven't seen it long enough to really have a strong opinion.
To the point to where like I don't. And you know me, I'll watch bad movies over and over again.
But you're mad as hell and you don't take it anymore.
I do not care to watch Network ever again.
Sure.
And one of the things that I remember about I think it was Magnolia. Mm-hmm. That was Paul Thomas Anderson, right?
Anderson.
PTA. He had everybody screen Network before they had Magnolia. And that's in the special features. It's like he's in the theaters thing, and this is one of my favorite films, and this is why we're watching this and get this done. I was like, oh, that's why I don't like Magnolia. Okay. Because I hate Network.
Okay.
I think that I will hate every movie that has a strand of Network in it. But I'm surprised I like the Joker so much because it clearly has that Network ending.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
And I understand what Network is saying. That's not what I think that if there were if there were a different director, I think the tone of the movie would be different, or even maybe just a few casting changes, like William Holden, for example. But it just the whole thing just twists me off. It's very rare I get angry about a film.
Yeah, that one does.
And that's a Network. I have no fucking time for that movie.
Okay.
So it was I kind of did not like that particular ending, but we're talking about 30 seconds out of a 2-hour movie.
So what's your
I can get over it. My opinion on what?
The Network component.
Well, I think that there were other ways I know that what they were leading up to, and I like the switch off of, it looks like he was going to blow his brains out live on TV, and then he chose instead to kill the host, which I suppose is like Taxi Driver. I can kill this politician, or I can kill the pimp.
Right.
So I get that choice thing, but to me, in the grand scheme of the movie and what the movie was achieving, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Sure.
I can get over it. What Network was doing, what Network was trying to achieving, I want no business of. So that would be the two differences. But but again, I think the Joker was brave. The Joker was definitely a risk. The Joker was taking on issues that a lot of people made them uncomfortable.
Yes.
Didn't want to talk about. Didn't want to.
Not that they wouldn't want as a popular entertainment.
Right. Yeah. And it wound up being popular entertainment. Yeah. For sure.
Bizarrely so.
And I think it's popular entertainment because it takes on that risk.
Probably. I find it very strange that it's this popular.
I know it's very strange for me too.
Very strange.
Like I'm not surprised that I like it.
No,
but I am very surprised that the rest of the world does.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as a movie that should be mass entertainment.
Right.
Well, they make it, but
okay, I think that we're done with that.
No, it might be.
Well,
we can always revisit.
As far as my questions that I had, written down for all this bullshit.
Well, my question about that whole movie was, would it be better if it wasn't a Joker movie? I mean, certainly it wouldn't have been made if it wasn't a Joker movie.
Because it could have been everybody. It could have been anybody.
Right. And that's the one problem I have with the movie. Isn't really a problem with the movie itself, was that the Joker is better as a force of nature that has no explanation for me. Right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I thought the Heath Ledger presentation was very effective.
Brilliant.
It's like there's no reason. I mean, that's one of the scary things about life is when there's no reason for stuff. Whenever there's a tragedy, if there is a mass shooting, and I don't want to use that. I'm not making light of that. It's like there is a desperate search as to the why.
Yes.
Right. And the
always.
And the worst thing is when they're like, there is no why. You know, and that was always what that character.
Right.
Was.
The anarchy of the moment.
Right. There's no why. It just is. Which, it's like, I'm not even 100% sure if the Joaquin Phoenix character is the Joker. I mean, the age difference is ginormous, right? But that's never mattered in comic books. We know that. But it's also one of those things where I could see it. You could spin it very easily if they made a third movie. Mm-hmm. Where it's like, yeah, he's not the Joker. He's just the inspiration for that character. Or someone to glom onto.
Well, there's another Joker project in the works.
Oh, I'm sure. They're going to make this stuff until people aren't.
Well, it was in the works before Todd Phillips sold this vision. And there were a lot of people that were criticizing DC pursuing two Joker stories in two different timelines. Like this one was always meant to be like a one-off independent.
Yeah, it seems to be a very...
Yeah. But the other Joker movie is supposed to be tied to Birds of Prey.
Oh,
the Suicide Squad
semi-sequel? Yeah. Okay.
So it's supposed to be more in that vein. And it's not going to be Jared Leto. It's somebody else.
It's kind of unfortunate, and I almost want to see it.
Yeah, but it's the same film that they're bringing in Robert Pattinson in to play
he's Batman, right? Yeah. That's very strange to me.
And very strange to me, too.
Very strange to me, and it worked out, so I reserve the right to watch.
I don't know if it worked out, but I'm not one of that.
It was interesting.
Interesting is another word for it. I'm not a Tim Burton fan.
I'm not either.
I think we've been through
How many
this.
Tim Burton movies do you like?
Oh, fuck. Literally like one.
I mean, two.
Jesus Christ. I've had it with that guy.
Yeah, but if you take a look back at his filmography, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Two.
I can think of two. I can think of two I like.
Okay, what's the first one?
Oh, Ed
Beetlejuice. I mean, come on.
Oh, Ed Wood.
Ed Wood? Okay.
I think it's great.
I watched it again a couple of years ago. And I jumped off that bus.
Really?
Yeah, okay. I get what he was doing, and it's not nearly as offensive to me as some of his other stuff.
Right.
It just wasn't entertaining to me.
I mean, the two that
Bill Murray's great.
Yeah, well, Bill Murray's
He's always great.
Almost always great. I think I liked Ed Wood and Edward Scissorhands.
Fuck that shit.
Okay.
Fuck Edward Scissorhands. My God.
Hey, it just works for me.
Holy shit. That's another one I get angry at.
That's fine. I kind of get the feeling.
Fuck Edward Scissorhands.
I kind of get that feeling.
Jesus Christ.
I don't count Nightmare Before Christmas.
Dark Shadows.
I haven't seen it.
I thought that was Johnny Depp, Ava Green.
I know what it is.
I thought that was highly entertaining.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
And that was one of those moments where even like I remember when
Sleepy Hollow was pretty good.
I didn't like Sleepy Hollow. That was the one I was about to bring up where Sarah and I were going in, and she said, "Are you sure?"
You're like, "No."
And I said, "Man, I'll keep my fingers crossed." Just walking out 2 hours later, going, "Fuck again."
But you know what? He definitely took risks.
He did.
I mean, if you look at Marvel movies and you're saying that they're taking risks, they're not taking risks like that guy does.
He is definitely a risk taker. I would say like Dark Shadows was a risk.
That's been quite a
That's been about when was it? 2010, 2011? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well, I was in Canada when it came out,
right.
So within the last 9 years, he definitely takes risks.
He definitely does.
He just doesn't.
You don't like the movies.
I do not like his films.
I'm glad he makes them though.
Well, if he doesn't make them, somebody else will, and they would only be better.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was a fucking travesty.
It's an abomination.
Unwatchable.
It's an abomination. I don't like it. But someone out there thinks it's their favorite movie ever.
Yeah, and that would have been my son 10 years ago.
That's fine. You know, I don't like it.
Kids like it.
That's fine, but it's one of those things where the movie's an abomination to us. But it's somebody's favorite movie. But if you put it in the hands of, say, a Brett Ratner, it would be nobody's favorite movie.
Give me another Brett Ratner.
If you had Roland Emmerich in charge of that movie,
oh,
nobody's favorite movie.
Yeah, I just saw his last one, Midway. Oh God,
is it not good?
Ooh, no.
God damn, it could have been good. The subject is worthy of a good movie.
But I will say this: it tries really hard. It tries really hard, and it fails.
But you know what? That's the whole thing with Risk, though, is that there's nobody on the planet where anybody says Roland Emmerich made my favorite movie. Nobody has ever said that, except for the 6 months after Independence Day. But you know what? There's some people who love the Johnny Depp and Kelly Check. They just do.
Sorry.
It's okay. I don't think that happens.
I don't think that happens either. Okay.
All right.
Next. Okay, let me find out where I was. Man, holy crap, that had me in stitches. Okay.
Yes. What up?
So back.
What up, home fry?
Yeah. Let me cross off some of my earlier ones that I meant to open with, because I did actually have like a chronological thing.
Let's start.
All right.
Let's go from there.
We'll start with number one. Really, really backtracking here. What did you like about Kingdom of Heaven?
The cinematography, as per usual with Ridley Scott, is always tremendous, right? It's always a beautiful canvas. It's a good-looking movie. The scope, I like. You know, it's one of those things where I don't really like Ridley Scott. I think I've come to that conclusion. But I like things that there's things that he does that I like a lot, right? I think that the performances from a general standpoint were very good. I just don't like the way he weaves them into the tapestry. It seems always very disjointed. But there's a lot about that movie that I liked. There really is. It's just overall, I don't find it satisfying. And I don't know if I can. And there's a lot of things I would change, and it would be a worse movie if I did it, obviously. But there, like we were talked about during the podcast, is I really thought he made a couple critical errors. Oh, Eva Green, I liked her too. But I thought there was a lot of critical errors that he made that would have kept the investment higher. Like that initial crew, that initial band that he had where there was Liam Neeson and the guy from Rome and the big German. It's like you should have kept those characters throughout the movie, and you could have had them die at various spots or make choices at various spots where there's an inherent investment, right? There's a lot of anonymity. I think that Edward Norton, as per usual, is great. I thought Saladin was really good. There's a lot that I like, which is why I find it so frustrating, is that there are so many components that I thought were excellent that as a whole, it just doesn't work. Did I answer your question at all? Or did I just say a bunch of words?
No. That answers my question.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking while you were saying that about all the money in the world,
which I haven't seen yet.
Which is astounding.
I've heard it's very good.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, when I think of a Ridley Scott movie, I mean, what do you think of when you think of a Ridley Scott movie?
It depends on my mood.
Okay. Because immediately I'm thinking Blade Runner, Gladiator.
I think Blade Runner, Alien.
Kingdom of Heaven, Alien. Fantastic worlds.
Yes.
When I think Ridley Scott, I don't think Matchstick Men, Thelma and Louise.
Oh, I like that movie.
Yeah. But people like them.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not what you think of when you think of a Ridley Scott movie.
I certainly don't think of that.
Right? And because he is known for building these
massive.
Yeah.
Well, Black Rain.
Black Rain, which very problematic.
How so?
But the racism.
We're going to table that and come back.
Yeah. Well, I could not speak with authority on it because I haven't seen it in 20 years.
Okay, we're going to table it and come back.
Yeah, regardless.
But let me just put one thing in there. Yeah. If you treat a character as a bad guy just because they're of a different race than a white person, doesn't mean it's racist.
Oh, no, not at all. No, okay. That's not what I was getting at. But again, let me rewatch it. And
we'll come back.
Maybe next time we meet. Okay. Anyway, if you get a chance, all the money in the world.
I would like to see it.
It's a superior Ridley Scott. And we talked about in the beginning of the last podcast about how that he was just remarkably inconsistent.
Oh, incredible.
And just up and down.
I saw your review of The Irishman, and we're going to have to talk about that later.
Letterboxd on letterboxd.com. Yeah, everybody. By the way, anybody listening, go to my account, Dylan Davis, on letterboxd.com. I'm posting short movie reviews there. My longer reviews, my in-depth reviews will always be on my website at www.thatdylandavis.com. Go ahead.
But Continue is one of those where we're going to come back to it.
To The Irishman?
Yes, and Scorsese and
Pesci?
No, God, now I'm brain locked.
Scott?
It's Ridley
Coppola?
Scott, and you kind of look at him in a similar vein, and we're going to come back to it.
Okay.
But back on Ridley Scott.
Okay.
You're right. Generally speaking, nobody thinks, at least I don't think of his more personal work, smaller work, as being representative of him when I think of his name. But he's made some very good ones.
Yes.
I mean, Matchstick Men is pretty damn good.
I like Matchstick Men.
Thelma and Louise, I think, is very good.
It's really good. Gina Davis in that is particularly
very cool.
Amazing. Matchstick Men, the girl, Alison Lohman, she's fantastic. Nicolas Cage just fucking...
He's always good.
He nails that fucking movie, you know?
He's either terrible or good, but I always want to watch him.
Yeah, I think he's a good actor. Luke says he saw one of his recent movies on Netflix
probably pretty good.
Just a few months ago, and he said it was outstanding.
Yeah, I believe it.
Okay. What did you... We already talked about. What did you not like about it?
What I didn't like about it?
Yeah, about Kingdom of Heaven. We talked about that just now and then on the last podcast.
What did you like about it? What worked for you and what didn't?
Well, I mean, what worked for me was the entire setting and the production design and the costumes and the vision, the cinematography, the style, the epic nature of it, which I think that Ridley Scott is very good at creating.
Absolutely.
Alien is a very small film, but it looks like an epic.
Yes.
And I think Ridley Scott did something like 400 commercials by the time he got to Alien.
I believe that.
And David Fincher did like 400 music videos before he got to Alien 3. And so in that aspect, they both have the same type of scope in terms of taking something small, like three kids looking at a computer, and just making it just seem like it's just epic in this nature.
Sure.
Or David Fincher's crane shot outside of Harvard grounds in Boston for that opening title shot. Like, that's just a town. It's just a town. It's a small town.
And we don't see it very much.
And it just looks amazing. And Scott could do that. That sweeping shot that Scott does, and I think it's like a 15 or a 20-second camera tracking shot through the laboratory, waiting for Kane to wake up. It's when all the lights were off and everything. Like, it's just simply amazing. How Luke and I just saw the 40th anniversary release of it on the big screen, and I think there was only one shot that had one difference, and then that was the rest of it. Just looked crystal clear and amazing. So that's what I wish I saw every time I saw a Ridley Scott film, and I don't.
And that's probably not fair.
And it frustrates me.
Oh yeah, I can see where it'd be frustrating. I mean, I don't know of any singular filmmaker I found more disappointing.
Oh, I'm sure that I can think of someone I'm more disappointed in.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Coppola, probably.
But I haven't expected anything out of Coppola in a long time.
For someone who hit 5 home runs in a row.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, unprecedented.
And I know that that's unfair of us to think.
Why?
Well, it's kind of, if Alex Bregman had 5 hit home runs in a row and then struck out the 5 times he's next at bat, then his batting average is 500.
Right.
And we're all like, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I mean,
but
that's unfair.
That's unfair. It's one of those things where if you hit 5 home runs in a row and then he struck out 40 times in a row.
That's Coppola.
I mean, that's kind of Coppola. I mean, yes. I mean, the level of, the pace is not even close to baseball. But to a certain degree, it's like, oh my God, he's killing it. And now it's been 3 decades. Yeah. I mean, and I like some of his smaller movies. The Outsiders, I like that fine. Rumblefish, it's okay.
Yeah, Tucker. I love Tucker.
Tucker's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but
I don't like it as good as Apocalypse Now, but I mean, it's a very good film.
Interesting movie.
It's a very good film, and there's tinges of Howard Stark in that.
But even, I mean, I think De Palma never reached the heights of Coppola, even close. But man, shit, he's still at least putting out interesting shit.
His followers are more loyal. I tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, and we have our difference of perspective on him, but at the same time, it's like, well, at least he's going for it. Yeah, Coppola seems like it's kind of
like he's not even trying.
Yeah, it's like
well, I know he's distracted with the winery and all that.
And I can see where that would happen.
Whatever. His daughter is trying.
She's
amazing. She's amazing. Even in the stuff that I don't like, she's amazing.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I remember watching The Virgin Suicides and thinking all throughout this, I will never watch this film again. But it is an amazing film.
Really well done.
Yeah, and that last one she made with Colin Farrell, I talked to several people who went and saw it. It was the remake of the Clint Eastwood movie, The Bewitched, The Beguiled. Yeah, and they just said like it was mesmerizing.
That was another one. Sorry,
The Beguiled.
No, the other movies are coming out, like Richard Jewell. I want to see Richard Jewell.
Oh, I want to see that too. Yeah, Clint Eastwood movie. Like
that dude's pumping him out. Holy crap, he can't stop.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, we went and saw The Mule last year.
Once a year.
Yeah.
It's like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, well, he's like one take Clint. That's what people say. And get your shit together because you got one take. That's it.
That's kind of nice.
And I heard that I heard that he got spoiled because of Meryl Streep working with him on The Bridges of Madison County. Oh, yeah. Which I saw like 25 years ago and I never liked and I will never watch again. And it's just not my thing. But I understand that Meryl Streep just spoiled him. She was like, one take. He was like, fucking A, we're going to be done like in 45 days and not 90. It's going to be great. She can do it. You can too. Yeah. And I know a lot of actors are like, holy crap. Like I better.
It's like that's why she's Meryl Streep, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
for sure.
Okay.
But anyway, a couple of notes that I did some research after our last podcast regarding Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Okay. Tex Watson is still alive.
Yes.
He is.
Okay.
The other dude is dead. Bobby Beausoleil.
Okay.
Who is there's a theory that so Bobby Beausoleil was another Manson family member who murdered a guy for Charlie Manson a couple of weeks before the Tate LaBianca murders. And there is a theory held by some people that the reason the Tate LaBianca murders happened was because Charlie was trying to hide the murder that Bobby Beausoleil had pulled off. He was trying to confuse the cops.
Okay.
He thought that there was a way for the cops to figure out that he and Bobby were involved. And so he thought, well, if we do this, then they'll think that it's like some crazy family running around doing it.
As it turns out it was.
And that's what people thought.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing was we were talking about names and people who were convicted and why would they care and all of that. And it turns out you were absolutely right about all that. If it's history, it's history.
You can kind of do what you want.
You can do what you want if it's part of the written record. Tarantino used the Manson family nicknames in the movie because he didn't want to say the real names because he didn't want to give them airtime.
Okay.
So Tex is not his real name.
Right.
And that's what people called him. But all this, the Squidgy and Pearly and all of that, he was like, I'm not going to fucking say Susan Atkins' name.
Right.
Because, if people want to know her name, then they'll learn about it. And I'm not going to give her any airtime in my fucking movie.
Right.
Which I have to say.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. I can run with that.
Okay.
I also want to say something that's kind of pertinent, and this is just something that I noticed. There's a feeling among a lot of I don't want to call them incels,
okay,
but a lot of Tarantino fans that are if you don't like Tarantino's movies,
fuck you. And
that's like a lot of things.
That's like a lot of things. And Tarantino fans are very, very diehard. Very,
like Slayer?
Very,
Fuck you.
yeah, they like Slayer. Yeah, Megadeth.
Metallica?
Fuck you. Yeah. I'm not of that ilk. I've seen a lot of things on Twitter with some friends of mine that I communicate with on Twitter that I have not met personally.
Right.
Which they were like, just because I said I didn't like this movie, now I've got 100 fucking people sending me death threats.
Which is absolutely bananas.
And it's like, again, the influence of social media. So I just want to say, just because we recorded 45 minutes of us like talking about how great it was,
right.
It's okay not to like.
No, it's not. If you don't like it, you don't have two brain cells to rub together, and you got no place to be here. You should go fucking kill yourself. I mean, holy crap! Your opinion is null and void. Of course. I mean, isn't that kind of obvious?
Well, it's obvious to you and me. It's not obvious to some people.
I don't think that your disclaimer is going to help those people.
It's okay to not like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
No,
I didn't like Ad Astra.
I haven't seen that.
It was interesting.
Can't get out.
It was interesting,
right?
But it's kind of like this very weird cross between Apocalypse Now and like 2001.
Okay.
Which was interesting to watch again.
But at least it was Risk.
Yeah, it was Risk. Okay.
Okay.
And Pitt's performance in it was interesting. Okay, so back to David Fincher.
Yes.
Can you please outline your frustrations with Alien 3?
It probably... Okay, so it starts off on the wrong foot, right? You take characters that are integral to the storyline, and you really dismiss them in a manner that's almost offensive, right? Because the Hicks and Newt thing is one of those where it would have worked just fine had you had somehow some kind of ship malfunction or something where Ripley gets separated from them, but the characters, they just move on.
Or they just stay in hypersleep for the entire movie.
There's mechanisms that, like, you don't have to mess with it, right? It's like if you had started Empire Strikes Back and immediately had, Han Solo killed, right? It's like, well, it's not the primary character, but it's confounding because I've got some emotional, integrity built into it, right? I've got some investment. So dismissing it that callously was very problematic. And that was starting off on the wrong foot, in my opinion. I found that the rest of the movie was reasonably okay, but not great. It had a lot of problems in that, for the most part, the prisoners on the planet were indistinguishable. So when someone died, they were like, it's like, I don't even know who that was.
A bunch of bald guys.
Right.
English
and
accents.
From a bald guy without an English accent. But like the few characters who were interesting were removed from the equation pretty quickly. Right. I thought that the Doctor was an interesting character.
That's Charles Dance, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it removed pretty quickly. Yeah. I think that the Warden was a pretty interesting character. Yeah. Removed pretty quickly. And, sometimes that makes a lot of sense, right? Because it has... boom, oh my God, they killed that person. But once I got through that, it was like, okay, who's left? And there wasn't a whole lot. I thought that the Ripley's sacrifice at the end with the Christ pose falling into the pit was, okay, it's kind of on the nose. Right?
Yeah,
but that's okay.
It was probably,
I mean, that's okay. I mean, we've seen that type of thing, and I've accepted it. But it's like after everything else, it was like, okay, and then this too.
We know that this isn't an excuse, but that's not a movie that David Fincher wanted to do.
Well, I think he wanted to do it.
He wanted to do an Alien film, but he didn't want to do it for like 2/3 of the budget that they promised.
Yeah, I believe that.
And all the limitations that they made. And of course, Sigourney Weaver, it was his idea to shave her head.
Right, and I thought that worked fine.
And like her salary like fucking doubled.
Yeah,
the minute they did that. Yeah. And that was a huge strain on the budget.
Yeah.
And he's expressed a lot of. It's kind of like how Kubrick feels about Spartacus. Okay. There are people. Kubrick complained the rest of his life about people coming up and saying,
Spartacus is one of my favorite films, and I think it's your best film. And Kubrick's like, I don't know how to feel about that.
Right.
It's not like he wants to disassociate himself with Spartacus, but
it's certainly not his favorite.
Kubrick does not think that it's not his favorite, and he doesn't think that it's his best, and he doesn't understand how anyone else can make that interpretation either. Yes. Right? Because in a large way, Kubrick doesn't even see that Spartacus was even his film.
Right. I mean, he was kind of a hired hand.
Well, he was, but I mean, there's very Kubrickian shots in it, and there are performances in it that are only would have come from him. But largely, it was not of his making.
Right.
And I don't want to say that the man just stood there and said action, because he didn't. He had a huge influence on everything. Right. And I don't want to say that the same thing happened to Fincher, but there's a lot of things in Alien 3 looks like a Fincher film.
Yeah, it's
I mean, stylistic, beginning to end, and he was greatly involved in the pre-production. So that's not the case. But it seems like he was bound a lot by story decisions.
It certainly looks like a movie was made by a committee. Yes. I mean, it really does. And also, I think there was a major disappointment for me from a viewer is there was a natural progression in these movies from 1 to 2 where there was a expansion of scope. Yes. And then it gets
way smaller.
Right. Which is not inherently bad.
No, but it seemed to be made because of a budget concern.
Right. As opposed to some conscious decision to... I mean, yeah, they portrayed it that, I wanted to bring it back to the original. It's like, well, it's not like you've made 7 movies and you wanted to bring it back to the original. Yeah. There was one other movie. You want to bring it back. Okay, well... And let's face it, the original Alien isn't this incredibly imaginative story. It's just an exceptional monster... and exceptional set design and really tremendous atmosphere.
And cinematography.
Right. But it's like the story itself is...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
I like
Big
it.
thing trying to kill me.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, there's 7 of us. Oh, then there's 6. Now there's 5. Now there's 4. It's like, it's inherently...
It's a very
special.
and then there were none type of...
Yes. And that's great. But it's like, ooh, I'm going to go back to that original plot. It's like, okay, it was the movie before last.
And for our politically correct crowd, I said, and then there were none, instead of saying 10 little Indians.
Okay.
I think that's important to... I knew that we touched on it, and I knew that we were going to touch on it.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, we already went through that. Okay. I have written down here the comparison from Alien 3 to Dark Fate. Terminator Dark Fate.
Okay, I've not seen Dark Fate.
I'm trying to figure out what the hell I think I'm on my fourth hell
I'm
at
guessing it's because John Connor gets killed in the first 4 minutes.
That's exactly.
Which kind of makes you go, well, what the fuck did I watch Terminator 2 or Terminator 1 for that matter?
That's what I meant.
Because I've not seen this movie, right? Yeah. But from what I understand, okay, so he gets killed in the first 4 minutes or whatever. Yeah, where it would have been one of those things where, you know what, would have been probably a better presentation would have been that, you know, John Connor somehow sacrifices himself for this new hero, the new hero, that kind of just doesn't...
There were other ways to do it.
Yeah, it's like one of those that's like, nobody really has a problem with the main character passing away, but it's like, it's got to be on terms that are consistent with the character itself, right?
Well, just like Alien 3, there were other ways to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you can still do it, but you just can't just take it and throw it in the trash. It was kind of like The Last Jedi really pissed me off when you had Rey hand Luke the lightsaber, and he just looks at it and
threw it away.
His shoulder. Yeah. It's like that's not consistent with that character.
Which was a deliberate choice by everybody involved who had a say.
Right.
And they chose for that to be okay.
So Mark Hamill said that was fine?
Oh, well, no. He didn't have a say. He's just an actor hired to do a job.
Right.
I mean, he's been on the record saying this is not...
He's associated with it so strongly.
Yes.
It's like...
Yes.
You know, if you had Han Solo pass away being a... You know, if his character was killed because he was hiding in a corner, it's like, that's fucked up.
That's wrong. Yeah, right. There's no way. Yeah. I prefer a straight fight as opposed to all the sneaking around.
Right, but it's one of those things where, I mean, that type of stuff matters to the audience. It does. And I'm presuming that that's what you were referencing.
No, that's exactly what I was referencing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, having John Connor die is a disappointment, but you can do it instead of just like, okay, well, that doesn't matter. It's like, oh, and that's what I've heard about this movie, and I'm not saying it, so I don't know, is that it's this weird, kind of inconsistent thing going on. It's like, we don't care about the past, but here's Arnie and Sarah and Linda Hamilton to show you we care about the past. Like, well, what the fuck? Do you care about it or not?
Right.
Because you dump on it in one hand, and then try to raise it up in the other. It's like, it's infuriating to a certain degree.
Very much so. So, what's your least favorite Fincher film?
Well, are we going to take Alien 3 and just exclude it?
We're going to exclude Alien 3.
Just by default.
Yes.
Or, I think my least favorite is probably Panic Room, I think. But, I mean, that's what really, totally using the, quote, least favorite.
Yeah.
It's like...
I love Panic Room.
It's like an 8. For me, I enjoyed it like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. What would yours be?
Well, I haven't seen The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So
okay, I take that back. It's a Curious Case.
I hear that's everybody's least favorite.
That's my least favorite. You're right. I've kind of forgotten about it. Yes, you're right. Yeah, that one's not... I don't really like it. Yeah, I don't really like it. Yep, that's the least favorite.
Well, no, I mean, I have to say, like, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
It's not fun.
It was very disappointing to me.
Yeah.
Because I had seen the Swedish films. I had read the books.
Right.
And I thought the books had a strain of very interesting themes, although I'm not one of those people who was holding them over my head like, you have to fucking read this like it's he's the Rowling of whatever.
Right.
Sweden or Norway or where the hell he's from. But I really thought that he was a very exceptional author, kind of like Stephen King, of painting this world and putting you in the world and understanding it, because there's a lot of things going on with the family, the Vanger family. And the missing girl and everything, and I'd seen the Swedish films, which were done on just such a limited budget, but they had Noomi Rapace, that actress, and I thought she did a phenomenal job with what she was given. And so when I heard Fincher was doing it, I thought, well, it's going to be exactly like the first film on crack.
Is that not accurate?
There's.
I mean, it's got the most kick-ass opening credits I've ever seen.
It does, and there are some very striking sequences that Fincher has constructed, and I don't know if he'd ever seen the Swedish one.
I think the legend is he had not. I don't know if I believe that or not, but I think that's what they
said.
Well,
that makes a lot of sense, but I will tell you that. Just for instance, again, we talked about these people on YouTube who spend a lot of their time deconstructing David Fincher movies, but there was one guy who compared scene by scene the two versions. And there is, without a doubt, a night and day difference between the way.
I would think so.
Any guy who you just teach how to pick up a camera and David Fincher.
Yeah, I would hope so.
And just what's his name? The lead character, whose name I can't even remember, the investigative reporter driving up to the Wenger mansion, and how that was done in a Swedish version and how that it was done with Daniel Craig.
Be very different.
And I couldn't. If you ever want to know why Fincher's a master, you go online and watch that video.
Right.
And he doesn't have them all in like 1 4-hour video. He's got them broken down into 3.5 minute sections, and he's got probably 100 of those videos of this is why this scene is better. This is why this scene is better. And I don't know if this is some guy who used to blow David Fincher or used to work for him or whatever, but it's a very effective tool of showing you why Fincher constructs a narrative differently than everybody else and the emotional impact that has on the viewer. So having said that, and then of course, Rooney Mara, I like Daniel Craig. I did not go see that movie because Daniel Craig was in it.
I wouldn't imagine.
I went to go see it because Rooney Mara was in it.
That's not what I expected, but okay.
And I had heard. She's the central. Elizabeth Salander is the central character of the book
Yeah, but I wouldn't have thought that you would go see it because of this.
Well, I was very interested to see what she would do with the character because Numi Rapace had done such a phenomenal job with the Swedish films. So then I went to go see it, and everybody.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
It's been right. Well, I mean, I was trying to formulate my words here and not sound like a pig because we just had the De Palma conversation. But we all know that people go see movies largely based on who's in them, and of course, if you have an actress in them, that's even more of a ticket seller. And then, of course, if you leak out, well, this actress is going to be nude,
right.
Well, then, like I remember when Rollerball was remade. And they were talking about, isn't it Rollerball with the remake? Do you remember
Romaine?
Yeah, Rebecca Romaine was in it. It was going to be a hard R, and it was going to be really violent, and it was going to be full frontal, and
none of that happened.
None of that happened, right? And it turned out, and it was like borderline PG-13.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of people were like, "This is not what I thought I was going to." Right. I mean, it was an R film with violence in it, but it wasn't.
But only barely.
It wasn't anything of the things that everybody had heard about. Well, I mean, I had heard that the girl with the dragon tattoo was going to just be a drastic difference, and it was going to be a shocking Fincher film, and Rooney Mara was going to be like this full frontal. And I went to go see it. I was shocked. I was really shocked at what she did in the film.
Right.
And she was a very, very brave woman to do what she did in the film.
Right.
And I admired the sort of honesty that the actors brought to it. And even that scene where Daniel Craig is like almost crying because he was shot at. He was like, I almost lost my goddamn life. Like I almost died over this bullshit. And you can see just how rattled he is. And I was really amazed with that. And then at the end of the film, and this may seem trivial, but in both the book and the movie, Craig's character had gone to Australia to unravel the mystery of the entire abduction that happened 30 years before. And it is really like a drop jaw moment in the book. And in the movie, there's a turnaround, and it's kind of a Swedish version. There's a drop jaw, like, oh my God, like it's like an unveiling of Kaiser Soze, exactly. It's like that. And Fincher did not manage to pull that off in the remake. And I mean, out of everything that he couldn't do,
go figure.
He couldn't do that, and so that would be, I think, instead of even going to Australia or shooting it out in Arizona and calling it Australia or doing something that's even seemingly remotely close to what was going on in the book in the first film, they just decide, well, we're just going to shoot this in London because we shot the entire thing in England and none of it matters, and it just seemed like a very poor choice, a poor production choice.
Kind of surprising.
For the ending of a movie that they knew that everybody was going to go see if they were fans of the book. You're trying to cash in on the book, and you changed the fucking ending.
That's going to be a problem.
That was really a problem.
Right.
With me.
That should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the fact that he did that movie in and of itself was rather surprising. It's like
very strange.
Movies. It's like, is he committed to making 3 movies? I doubt it.
Very strange. Yeah, and now of course that's affected the other two. They don't want to make the other two.
No, why would you?
Because the ending of the first one was fucked up. Yeah. And so the fans are like, well, I'm not going to go fucking see the other two.
Right.
And that seems very careless, very un-Fincher-like, if I might say.
Yes, but
he may not have had the choice.
It seems unlikely, to be honest with you. I think he's got a lot of... He's one of the few that I think really can kind of do what he wants, how he wants. Which is why he's doing, as far as I can tell, almost exclusively Netflix stuff now.
Right, he certainly has more control over it. It does, because it just... The man graces the screen with such a presence.
Yeah, and so
that
rarely.
Yeah, and I mean, I soaked up Mindhunter, season 1 and 2 with just relish.
Right.
I relished watching that. Anna Torv, who's most famous for being in Fringe. Okay. She's in Mindhunter. She's the blonde psychologist. I have seen amazing things out of her personification on screen that I know is, and it's not to cut her short as an actress at all, but I know it's because Fincher is directing her.
Right.
Everybody's game is elevated.
I mean, how many of the episodes did he direct? He didn't direct them all, did he?
That's a good point. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a good point.
I mean, I'll be honest. I hate to say it because I'm kind of hypocritical, but when it's on Netflix, it's not that I'm less interested, but there's less of a drive to watch it immediately because I know it'll be there.
It'll be right. No, me too.
So it's like The Irishman. I need to watch desperately, but I haven't seen it, and it's on Netflix. So I'll probably wait until Christmas break and I'll watch it then.
Versus it being in the theater, and we got to watch it now.
Got to watch it before it's gone. And I wanted to see it, but it was canceled, or they didn't show the evening show on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
I am very happily running out of topics.
Oh. Can you pause real quick?
Yeah, we can do that.
Have a dream of a huge, luscious, creamy root beer float? Well, if you haven't tried one with Mug Root Beer, start drooling now. Mug old-fashioned root beer in the new twist top bottle.
Okay, and we're back.
And we are back.
Yeah, very happily running out of topics. But I did... You brought up something that I wanted to see very badly, which was 1917.
Yes, that looks like it could be extremely interesting.
Yeah, Sam Mendes.
Who I'm generally speaking, it doesn't do much for me, but the little bit that I know about this seems like it could be fascinating.
What do you know about it?
I know that the whole movie is presented as if it were a single shot, right? And you have guys on a mission type of movie, but it's a pretty singular mission, and I'm hoping that it's going to satisfy what Dunkirk didn't give me.
What did Dunkirk not give you?
Dunkirk struck me as a movie that Nolan was trying to impart experience. Okay, the whole movie was based on... There's no plot. Plot doesn't matter. What matters is experience of the characters in the time, right? Okay. And I thought that it was so muted that it didn't effectively do it.
You like narrative. We've been over this.
No, it's not even the narrative thing. It's more if you're going to do the type of film where strictly explore the action, the things that are happening, I don't want it to be half-ass. Right? And it struck me as a movie that, okay, we're going to show you just these are the experience of these people in these circumstances. But it was really pretty, like I said, muted. It was really like low-key. I mean, I don't want to see violence and gore, but it's one of those that under those
circumstances... The action was muted.
Yeah, exactly. So
for as much music as there was in the film. Yeah.
But it's one of those things. Like I do think that the opening of Saving Private Ryan or the battle in Thin Red Line where they're going up the hill, there's a lot of visceral excitement. That was hard to watch, but it like really fit what the narrative was. And in Dunkirk, it was like very... After the first 20 minutes, you realize, okay, nothing terrible is going to happen. So I'm less invested. Okay. That's kind of the way I thought about it. You know, you take some of the, like Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
Right? There's no narrative that matters.
No.
Who gives a shit?
That's not a movie.
No, but it's an incredibly compelling
It's an experience.
Yeah,
oh,
like,
yes. That's
I'm
performance
art.
art.
I walked out.
Yes.
But it was like, okay, yeah, it's one of the top 10 movies I saw that year easily.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
Last 10.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm looking for is like, if you're going to do this, that's great. Just do it. So I'm hoping that this movie does. Okay.
So I want to go through some Sam Mendes films with you.
American Beauty.
No.
I know you hate it.
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
Fucking hate that film.
I know you hate it. I think it's okay.
That and Network. You found the two.
Right. I think there's enough things in American Beauty that work for me that I find it pretty interesting.
Yeah. Did you see Road to Perdition?
I did, but it was a long time ago. And I thought that was pretty good.
I never saw it. I understand it's good. Jarhead.
Didn't see it.
Read the book. Thought even less of the film.
Right.
But again, I have to say, visually, stylistically, very compelling.
Revolutionary Road.
Mm-mm.
Never saw it.
No thanks.
Okay.
I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing Marriage Story.
Oh, yeah.
Or, is that what it's called? Marriage Story?
Yeah, the one that's out now with Adam Driver.
Noah Baumbach?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure it's great. I'm not watching it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of tragedy films. Kramer versus Kramer is a great film. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to see it.
It's like, it has a great place, and I'm sure it's phenomenal, and I think they should make those things, but I'm just not going to see it.
You like Skyfall?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, Spectre.
I didn't see it.
Yeah. Okay, so...
the recent criticism I had, and I'm sorry to keep quoting these random people I see on Twitter, or these trends on Twitter that I see, but
no, they matter.
I spend a lot of time on Twitter, unfortunately, because that's just what I do.
Right. There's nothing wrong with it. They matter.
Yeah, to socially push the podcast and my books. But there's a lot of people that look at the 1917, the one shot.
Right.
Which they did for Russian Ark. I don't know if you saw Russian Ark. That was one shot.
No, I didn't see it.
That was the first movie that was one shot. I think it was...
Wasn't Rope the first movie that was passed off as one shot?
It was passed off as one shot,
but 1917 is not one shot. It's like, it's just designed to
look like one shot. Okay. All right.
There's no way you could do it. I mean, you can't do it.
Well, I don't know if the subject matter in 1917 allows them to do it.
From what I can tell, with the events that are happening, it's impossible. You couldn't do it.
No, Rope is like full reels.
Right.
Like it's like 10 minutes. It's a full reel, one shot.
Right.
And they're linked together.
Right. Well, I mean, is the famous sequence in
Rope is by Hitchcock, for those of us. Not you, but for our listeners.
Well, I know that. But what's the Clive Owen future movie?
Children of Men.
So, like, they have the very famous single. But
that amazing shot in the car.
I don't think that's a single shot either. It's just designed to look like it.
Right. Well, yes, that's three different shots stitched together.
And that's what I get the impression that 1917 is. It's like it has the power of one. It might as well be one, but it's like logistically, you just literally can't do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, I even saw in a trailer about how they go into a tunnel and it blacks out. Well, obviously that's a cut.
It should be.
Yeah, and Mendes did that in the opening of Spectre, which I love the opening of Spectre. That's like a 7.5 minute
and that's,
shot, and but there's two cuts in that.
Yeah, which is
which is fine.
You do it so well. It's like
yeah.
Kudos to you.
Okay, so I didn't realize that it wasn't all one true shot. I thought it was all one.
I don't think it is. It might be, but I don't believe that it is.
Yeah.
Well, then my thinking on it changes. Russian Ark was a red on a Steadicam, and they ran through 3 times, and the first time the cinematographer something failed within the first 10 minutes, and so they had to start again. And, they could only try like 3 times in a day.
Right.
And then the second time they got an hour in, and then they had to stop for some reasons, like somebody missed their mark or something. And so then they had to reset everything again, and then they went a third time, and they went the whole way through. And I think it's only like 104 minutes, but that's quite a while for one take on a red.
Right.
And I mean, I don't ever care really to watch it again. It's an interesting piece of art. But there's a lot of people that, of course, say, well, yes, it's a nice accomplishment. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's not a compelling story. Russian Ark is not a compelling story.
Okay.
1917 looks like a compelling story.
It looks like it is.
And I was under the impression until now that it was all one shot. So I was seeing things on social media that were sort of like Sam Mendes is a pretentious asshole for even trying to attempt this. Like he's trying. I'm so arty that I'm going to do one take, and no one can do one take, and I'm the new Orson Welles of the future.
Yeah, if you can do, I mean, it's good to have goals that are almost impossible. There's nothing pretentious about it. I mean, if you can, awesome. If you can't, it's worth a shot.
Long takes are difficult to pull off for a reason.
Yeah.
Orson Welles would do them strictly for economy.
Okay.
He did not have the time, did not have the money.
Right.
And he knew that if he could pull off a 10-minute sequence in a day,
Saves him a lot of cash.
then it saved him a week. Yeah. And but there are other people that are trying to make a point
Right.
with a long take. And that's someone like Kubrick.
Or Scorsese.
Or Scorsese.
I mean, I think...
Well, you famously brought up the restaurant dolly shot.
Dude, that's amazing.
And we Luke and I just watched that last Saturday.
It's hard to believe amazing. I mean, it kind of imparts so much of a story.
I couldn't believe the just the technical aspect of going through the kitchen.
Right.
That was shocking to me.
I think it was one of the first movies. That may be the first movie that I remember going to in the theater where I actually had a sense where it's like, oh wait, this is really remarkable in and of itself.
Right.
Which is why I think that he's probably my favorite director. Is like that one point in that movie, I'm like going, oh, I totally get it.
Right.
I'm rewatching After Hours.
Okay, I haven't seen that in
Probably since it came
25
out.
years?
Yeah. So after I finish it, it's free with ads on Vudu. So after I finish it, we'll get together.
Okay.
Anyway,
That's why when you were talking about in your review of The Irishman, where you equated Scorsese to Ridley Scott, I was kind of surprised.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, you did. Where you had a whole bunch of movies where the implication was his batting average wasn't that remarkable, and I'm
Scorsese's is not.
You don't think his batting average is remarkable?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think that's where you're underselling it. Because he's not made a whole lot of bad movies.
Scorsese?
Yeah. I mean, go through his filmography. Do you have it? Are you calling it up?
I'm calling it up right now because I checked it before I wrote that review. And I was kind of... Let me go... Okay, so do you know how many features he's directed?
Including documentaries?
Yes.
It's got to be 25.
By the way, I included his excellent documentary work in the review.
Right, I'm sure it's got to be 25, if not 30.
He has directed 61
Oh, shit. Not even close, yeah.
films, including shorts.
Right.
Whatever. Now, well, okay, so that includes the pilot for vinyl.
And I wouldn't count that myself, but okay.
I understand that the pilot for vinyl is like
I've not seen it.
Stellar.
Yeah, I've not seen it,
Okay.
so I don't know.
I liked Silence.
But if you want to start... Okay, so I have not seen Boxcar Bertha. I have not seen Who's the Knocking at My Door. I've not seen Italian American.
Yeah.
So the very early stuff I just haven't seen.
Wolf of Wall Street, obviously gold.
A+.
Hugo.
It's a good movie. It's interesting. It's not great, but I'm really glad he made it.
I agree. Living in the Material World.
I don't even know what that is.
It's the George Harrison documentary.
I've not seen it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
Excellent. Well, I mean, that's my,
yeah, you're going to
my
be
shit,
biased,
but
yeah.
I'm biased immediately, but the fact that Scorsese's talent is added to it is amazing. Bogdanovich did one on The Heartbreakers.
Okay.
I understand is really good. I haven't seen it.
We're not going in any kind of order. Is that alphabetical?
Decreasing by year.
Oh, so wait.
Backwards.
Okay.
Public Speaking. Never heard of it. Okay. Letter to Ella. Never heard of it.
Yeah. It's another documentary.
Shutter Island.
Very good.
Stellar.
Very good.
Just
Very good.
On the moon. Good.
Yeah.
Shine a Light.
It's good.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's good.
Yeah. The Departed, of course.
Phenomenal.
Yes. The Aviator.
Phenomenal.
Amazing. Michael Jackson, number ones.
Didn't watch.
Neither did I. I didn't care to. Gangs of New York.
Pretty good, but not great.
Problematic.
Probably a B-.
Bringing Out the Dead.
Probably the same level, about a B-.
Particularly like it. My Voyage to Italy.
Yeah, it's okay.
Kundun, I liked.
I think that's pretty good. I think that's like
I
a
liked
B.
Kundun.
It's like a pretty solid B.
Yeah. Casino, I thought was a major
A-.
disappointment.
Oh, I think you're wrong. I think Casino is. It's not Goodfellas.
No.
But I think the excess that people criticize Casino is the point.
Oh, I don't criticize the excess of it.
Well, that's most of the criticism I've.
And I read the book, and the book was really good.
Yeah, I think it's really good. When's the last time you watched it?
It's been 10 plus years.
Yeah, I mean it's way too profane. It's way too violent. It's way too much everything. But it's one of those that it's way too much time. It's like a 2.5 hour long movie. But
Sharon Stone looks lost in it, and I think that's Scorsese's fault.
It might be, but she was also playing a character who was cooked out for a high percentage of it. I mean, I really like Casino. I mean, it's one of those that doesn't make me feel good watching it, but I really like it. I mean, they had Don Rickles in it, and he kills. Like, I don't think he literally kills anybody.
No. But still.
I mean, the part where the guy gets his hand smashed with a hammer.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
There's so many, and unfortunately, the Joe Pesci death with the
baseball
bats and the pings. It was like, it's a brutal movie, but I think it's really, really good.
That's those scenes. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that there's a scene in Casino that's shot bad.
No, I didn't take that as that. Yeah.
But
these are the highlights for me. As horrible as that makes me sound saying it.
Well, that scene when Sharon Stone walks in, she's wearing like that glitter dress.
Yeah.
And she's like, there's cash thrown in the air, chips or whatever, and then
Freaking
De Niro's
amazing.
like, who is that? That was an amazing scene. Yeah. Age of Innocence.
Fucking phenomenal.
Really?
Yeah, it's great. It may be one of his best movies. You don't like it, do you?
No, and it has Winona Ryder in it, and I love Winona Ryder.
You should watch it again. When's the last time you watched it?
Probably 20 years.
There's a lot of tension. I mean, there's a lot of violence in that movie that isn't violence. No. If you watch it, there's a lot of conflict. It's really remarkable. I mean, it's really low-key and polite.
Well, I understand it's low-key and polite because it's Victorian. So,
Yeah,
but I get that.
It plays within those boundaries. I think I like it a lot. I like it a lot.
I guess I got to watch it again.
Yeah.
Okay. Cape Fear.
It's okay. I mean, if I was going to rate it on A to F, I'd probably give it a good solid C+. If Nick Nolte wasn't in it, I think I'd like it better. I don't even
remember that Nick Nolte was in this film.
He is the hero of the... It's not great. It's really not. I admit that.
Obviously, Goodfellas.
Yeah.
New York Stories.
Yes.
Last Temptation of Christ.
That's a weird one, right?
I love that film.
I do too, but it's also one of those things where, God, I wish Willem Dafoe was in the star. I really wish Willem Dafoe was in Jesus. Yeah, I can't get it.
I like Willem Dafoe.
I like him too, but I don't like him in that movie. I don't think it fits.
But
I mean, it's a fascinating story and a fascinating movie, and being Catholic, I find it really good. I mean, I'd probably give that a A-.
That's very strange for you to say because, a lot of Catholics don't like this film.
A lot of Catholics didn't see that movie.
Yes.
But it's one of those where...
Yes, that's very true.
But I mean, it's the perfect encapsulation of the problem with Jesus.
Yes.
Right? Is he's human and he's God.
Well, right.
And it's like, it totally makes sense that this would... It makes total... It's the last temptation. It makes all the sense in the world. And it's really one of those that is a faith-affirming movie, which is one of the... I remember when it came out, there was all these protests, and it's like, I didn't know enough at the time to really... I didn't know.
Yeah, I remember that.
But it was one of those things, watching and go, this is a really faith-affirming film. It's like, it's a temptation, and he rejects it. It's a beautiful, terrible movie. I mean, I'm glad it got made.
I think that there would be more fans of Jesus if more people saw this movie.
I can see that. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong.
I mean, I don't describe myself as Christian by any sense of the word, but a lot of that has to do with the dogma of the situation.
Sure.
But I was really enraptured. I was been drinking obviously all afternoon.
Enraptured?
Enraptured by Defoe's presentation of Jesus as a person.
Okay, this is really shallow. Yeah. It's just Defoe aesthetically.
Oh, yeah.
doesn't match the Jesus.
That makes sense.
I mean
that
it's
makes
really
sense.
shallow.
Yeah,
but it's
they
just,
can't all be Jeffrey Hunter.
It's strictly that. I mean, it's strictly that. But I mean, god damn. I mean, we're counting back, right? So we've had at least 4 movies that are like, God, these are.
I mean, The Color of Money.
For what it is, really good. It's on the higher. It's like it's basically Top Gun. But it's a better movie than Top Gun.
It is not better than Top Gun.
Yeah, you're wrong.
And I don't like Top Gun.
Paul
particularly.
Newman is fucking super cool.
Well, Paul Newman is super glue in everything he's in, but this movie sucks.
Oh, okay. We're gonna
disagree.
We're gonna
on
keep
that.
walking by that one.
Okay. After Hours again. I'm rewatching it. I just turned it on Vudu, and I got to say, just the first camera move in the film.
He's so gifted.
Sucked me in. Yeah. So we'll see where that goes. King of Comedy.
I really need to see it again. Something tells me, because the last time I saw it was probably 25 years ago. I think I would appreciate it more now. Raging Bull A+.
Yeah, you're a Raging Bull fan.
Even if you don't like Raging Bull, objectively, it's an amazing movie.
No.
What?
I've never thought that.
No. Really?
I've never thought that it's an amazing movie, even if I don't like it.
How so?
I don't like. I mean,
the fight scenes are amazing. Remember the animal sounds when they're doing the fight, and it speeds up and slows down.
Yeah, like Snatch.
It's just
Snatch stole that from Raging Bull.
30 years before.
Yeah.
I mean, in the black and white, the cinematography is amazing.
It was pretty crisp. Yeah. But
I mean, it's not a fun time, but it's.
Well, there are other films that are. Schindler's List is not a fun time.
Right.
That's a great film.
Yeah, I think Raging Bull. I mean, I feel terrible watching it because they're like, oh, these people are terrible. Yeah. But it's so well done.
Joe Pesci's good in it, but I have no attraction to it whatsoever.
When's the last time you watched it?
When you told me you have to see this, and then we had like an argument on email that went on for like 8 months and 25 pages. The Last Waltz.
Pretty fucking good. Okay. Go on.
I mean that was with what's his name?
The band, Robbie Robertson.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. New York.
Not my cup of tea. Even though I like musicals, not my cup of tea.
Okay, Taxi Driver.
We all know.
Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore.
Haven't seen.
Sleeper. Italian American, you said.
I want to see it, but I have not seen it.
Okay, Mean Streets.
I love Mean Streets.
So, what I told Luke, 'cause Mean Streets is on Netflix right now. So he said, Dad, can I watch this? Because I know Scorsese did it.
Right.
And so what I told him was, there's 3 camera shots in the entire movie. That's worth watching that movie. And then you can move on. And he watched it and he said, yeah, you're right.
But for most, I mean, that's not his first movie. But to a certain degree, it's his first movie.
It's the first movie of his that people saw.
Well, it's probably the first movie where he got to say, I want to do my movie.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure, yeah.
And George Lucas had THX. Was his first movie. Right. And I'm sure there's others that I'm totally blanking on. But, I mean, okay.
I'm on the outside on that one. I love THX.
I like THX.
No, I'll watch it again right now. It's a great movie.
Give me American Graffiti any day of the week and twice on Sundays.
I hate American Graffiti. Don't care.
I'm going to shoot myself.
I know.
What do you mean you hate it? No one can hate American Graffiti.
Don't like it.
What?
Don't like it.
What? I'm confused. You said you went from but you said you hate. How can you hate American Graffiti?
I'm sorry. I did use the word hate. I said I don't hate movies. I don't hate American Graffiti.
Why don't you like it?
I do not like it strongly.
It is. Why? I'm baffled. Wait. We've got to explore this. I don't understand. I mean, if there's anybody listening at this point, which I don't know if there is, but if there is, please send an email. Okay, my email address is dkai71@gmail.com.
You sure you want to do that?
I just did. So, if you don't like it, I want to know why you don't like it. Because this is... Okay, so everybody's top 30 movies in their brain changes all the time, right? Well, okay, so does your favorite movie stay consistent? Mine changes all the time. It just depends on what I'm feeling.
No, I mean, my favorite movie is been the same for the past 35 years.
Okay, that's reasonable.
But I know that I'm not normal.
Your favorite one is fine. Okay, but your top 10. I mean, mine can shift.
There's probably 5 in there that stay the same, and then the other 5 are just constantly rotating.
2 or 4 or 7 or, it can change.
My favorite is number 1 all the time.
Okay, what's that?
Empire.
Okay, that's fair, right? But if you're top 10, I can see like number 2 right now could be number 6 last week or number 4 the week before.
Sure,
it just shifts.
Absolutely.
But American Graffiti, I think, is always in my top 50.
Really?
It really is. There's a certain unabashed joy, and it's the only Lucasfilm that I feel is really organic. The ones that he directed, right?
Well, I don't know. I think Star Wars is pretty organic.
It is, but I think
the dialogue is awkward.
I think American Graffiti doesn't have any of the problems of Star Wars. It doesn't have any of the highs of Star Wars, but it doesn't have any of the problems. Everything they say strikes me as very legitimate. I find, God, I really enjoy. I'm really surprised you don't like it.
Yeah, there's a natural aspect of it when they're talking to each other in between the cars, when they're in the pinball machine rooms. And there's a natural dialogue that occurs that it's kind of shocking that you don't see that in his other films.
I know, and I think he's really good at casting.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, he's really good at casting. I mean, you had Richard Dreyfuss and Ron Howard and Candy. What's her name? Totally
Jar Jar thing.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, but Harrison Ford. I mean, Ewan McGregor was perfect casting. Ian, who is the Emperor? Ian. What's his name?
Oh, the guy who played Palpatine.
Yeah, it was perfect casting. I mean, he's really, generally speaking, very gifted at it. Yeah, but why don't you like him? Why don't you like American Graffiti? He just doesn't. Is it because you don't like cars?
No, I mean, I love cars. We just got through talking about how, like, Shelby Cobras and Mustangs.
That's why I'm confused.
Yeah, and there's a lowrider in that. There's like a 32 Ford Eliminator with a dropped hood and a see-through vent.
Yeah.
And
that's Paul Lemass.
Yeah. I mean, all of that looks really cool, and I really dig it and like it, and flame jobs and all that. And I read cartoons, the comic, when I was a kid. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
It sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, it was a comic book called Cartoons.
T-O-O-N-S.
Yeah, and I read that for years. I loved it, and I have stories about 57 Chevy rebuilds and stuff like that. There was nothing in American Graffiti that made me want to watch it again. I've seen it 3 times, I think. I saw it when I was a kid, and I was like,
the music is amazing.
Soundtrack's great. Soundtrack's great.
Are
you get the same soundtrack in Stand By Me or Animal House.
Okay, this was before both of those.
It was, and he gets points for being first.
Okay, we're gonna. I'm just that one actually shocked me.
I understand that it's.
I can see where you would say, I think it's okay. Yeah, I'm just surprised.
No, I don't even think it's okay. I have no desire to see it again. And to me, it's sort of if I have a desire to see a film again, there must be something about the film that makes me want to see it again.
Well, that's what I mean. If I am actively not wanting to watch something again, there's going to be something I can usually point to. I didn't like that, point blank, and that's why.
I'd rather watch Showgirls again than see American Graffiti.
I would totally watch Showgirls again. But that has nothing to do with American Graffiti. I would watch them both. Okay, I'm fucking baffled. Yeah. But we're gonna move on. So we went through the whole Scorsese filmography there, right?
So there were more hits than
But the hits are so fucking high.
Well, that goes back to what we call the Robert Evans thing. Last time we talked about holy shit, 4 out of 5.
But it's much more consistent, right? I mean, we're talking about decades.
It's more consistent than I realized, but the ones that I don't care for are, man, I really don't care for.
Okay, so what are the ones you really dislike?
Raging Bull.
Okay.
Cape Fear, I have no time for.
And that's fine. But Raging Bull, you recognize you're in a minority, right?
I think I'm a minority by saying I don't like a Scorsese film, period.
No, that's probably not accurate.
Oh, I don't know. Everybody worships the ground he stands on.
Well, because of what we talked about. But, Bringing Out the Dead, some people love, but most people are like, eh.
Yeah, I didn't care for that.
But, Raging Bull... Just objectively.
I find nothing about that film satisfying.
About the story or the movie?
Well, what's the difference? I mean, I don't like the story of Jake LaMotta.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. But the way it's executed is exceptional.
I mean, I don't remember anything about the film that stood out. Like
the boxing matches are shocking.
I guess I'd have to watch it again because they didn't seem like they just seemed like another boxing match to me. Oh. I remember watching Creed, thinking, "Wow, that's a boxing match."
I think Creed reminded me a lot of Raging Bull. I mean, you had this. You remember the camera moving around when they circle around?
Yeah,
it's just
in Creed,
like, No, in Raging Bull.
No,
yes,
I don't remember any of that.
Okay, you need to watch it again. Does your Laserdisc player work?
Yes.
Okay, I'll loan you the movie. But it's
I mean, I think I have it on disc.
It's not pleasant, but it is.
Oh, it doesn't have to be pleasant.
Yeah, but it's like, it's one of those that it's like, shit. You probably need to watch it again. But I mean, okay. So what's the Ridley Scott filmography?
Oh, that's worse.
Yeah.
Than Scorsese.
I remember in your review,
I was equating them because they were both inconsistent.
Ridley Scott, I can't think of more than 3 movies that I put in A+. It'd be tough.
Well,
I don't think Blade Runner's an A+ movie.
Oh, man.
Blade Runner is a fascinating exercise, but I'm not convinced it's a good movie.
I think it's a great movie.
Sure. But I can tell you why I don't think... Okay, so this is a good opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So, I know why I don't think Blade Runner is a great movie. I think it's a fascinating vision. And it's really... I think 2049 is a better movie.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, there's so many plot holes that are problematic that you look at it and go, oh, this doesn't make any sense. The story is boring you.
No.
I mean, the story is, it doesn't move in the original Blade Runner. And
well, particularly when anytime they go back to his apartment, it's like the story stops. Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not, needing laser shows all the time.
Right.
But, granted, I'm talking about the original version that, I know that they got rid of the narration.
Yeah.
But the narration isn't good. But the removal of the narration doesn't really help the movie. It's like this weird thing. It's like there's no good solution.
Well, I think that it would help if it had a good narration.
That's probably true. I mean, he was definitely bored.
He was bored. He was doing it badly on purpose.
Yeah.
He admitted to it. But it was also the writing. The writing of the narration sucked. I mean, John Milius came into the studio to work with Martin Sheen. Mm-hmm. And Coppola on the narration for Apocalypse Now.
That makes a lot of sense.
And he was
pretty organic.
He was in the room, and I think, I don't remember who wrote Blade Runner, Hampton Fancher. He just may not have that thing that Ford needed, right? And of course, Ridley Scott did not direct Ford's narration.
Right, which is that's the problem. Is like that's inherently baked into this movie. Is like you need narration, but the narration is bad. So if you pull the narration out, it doesn't really work. But if you have the narration in, it kind of fucks it up.
And it's all basically sabotage because they fired Ridley Scott from the film during post production, but then he was still contractually obligated to finish it.
Which is so weird.
So he had to actually work for the people who had just fired him with no creative control.
Which is pretty whack.
So that's, you can't expect anybody to operate in that framework.
And I don't. That's why I think that the movie is okay.
Yeah, but Denis Villeneuve for 2049.
I'm so glad they made that movie. Glad they made that movie.
That was a stellar achievement.
Yeah, I think that was...
I think cinema was sleeping for a very long time in between Social Network and 2049.
But, I mean, I can't think of a whole lot of directors. There's probably Hitchcock. I'm trying to think who else. I'm sure there's others, but I'm blanking on them. American directors, I'll be honest. I'm couching it like that, who have the Batting average is Scorsese. Spielberg, probably.
Well, definitely not the highs. I mean, it's just not even when we look through Sam Mendes' there's like 2 or 3.
Yeah, Spielberg and Scorsese are probably the only two I can think of.
They're oddballs, though. I mean,
they are. They really,
nobody punches above.
I mean, you got Kurosawa.
I haven't, to be honest, I have not seen enough Kurosawa.
Have you seen
any
bad Kurosawa flick?
No, I have not.
Yeah, even the ones that are not great are like, that's so pretty fucking
I haven't
good.
seen High and Low yet.
That's really good.
I need to.
That's really good.
Right now, Luke wants to see every Kurosawa film ever made.
And some of them don't work for me, but I recognize them. Like Ikuru, I don't like it, but it's really good.
I need to see Ikuru. I've got that one too.
I'm too young to feel that old.
You're right. Okay. So just a couple more questions that they're off the beaten path. And I know we started talking about like beer for 20 minutes.
That helped.
It did. Yeah. I wanted to get into the Astros.
Okay.
Just I don't know. I hope it's brief, but knowing us, it probably won't
May not be.
Particularly after a 6-pack of beer for each of us. But
right.
I went to 2. I guess I went to 20, 25 games this season.
That's quite a few.
Yeah, and I made the 2 division games and 2 pennant games with the Yankees, and then I made 2 World Series games against the Nationals, and I had a fun time. And I'm proud of my Astros.
Right.
And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the World Series, not because we should talk about every World Series, but because we live in H-Town.
Word.
And I do, to get back to a previous theme where we talked about flyover, we live in a polarized world.
Yes.
Or a polarized nation.
Sure.
Where they think the flyover doesn't matter. And to me, it matters that my team, which is in flyover country, can, I don't want to say stick it to, but can triumph against the money and the power, the influence of the coasts.
Okay.
And it seemed like we did it in 2017 against the Dodgers, and we had a chance to do it against the Nationals. Now, or definitely the Yankees. Now, I want to say something very, very clear here to anyone who's listening on the East Coast. I think the Nationals are a fantastic baseball team.
Yeah, they deserve that.
They deserve to win that series.
Sucks, but they won.
And it sucks for us, but they won fair and square. And I didn't see anything that the Nationals were doing that was, out of bounds. I thought they were a great team.
Yeah, it sucked for us. But
they're right, exactly. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the World Series in terms of like all the fucking runners we were leaving on base.
Oh, I mean, it's the whole thing was
so frustrating.
Yeah, it was very frustrating, and I hate to comment too much on baseball because I don't watch enough of it to have a valid opinion. I just don't. But it was a game. The whole series was full of missed opportunities. That was my perception of it. It's like, oh, good God. You had someone out there and you can't move them along the base. Yeah, you just can't. I don't know. It was not crushing because we'd won the World Series a few years before. It was like, okay, we have this 5-year grace period, right? That's totally fair. It's like, no matter what they do, it's like, well, you got there. You won it. It's perfect. That's the problem is I don't follow baseball well enough to really have strong opinions. I am the ultimate bandwagon fan in that regard. I will never watch a regular season game on television.
Okay.
I will totally watch all the playoffs from World Series for sure.
Yeah.
And if they lose, it sucks, but I'm over it, right?
Right.
If they win, I'm excited, but I'm not going to run around and buy a baseball cap. I watched them win the World Series. I was out in Midland when they beat the Dodgers in Game 7. I was at a bar. I was excited, and it was over. And I've never bought an Astros baseball cap, not because I don't like them, but it's like, this is pretty false if I'm buying my first Astros baseball cap after they win the World Series.
That's right.
So I recognize that component. I don't know enough about the sport and the rules because the thing that keeps fascinating me is this whole Astros stealing signs. and I don't know enough about it. My perception, which I could be totally wrong, is that there's nothing in the rule books against stealing signs. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of the impression I'm under. And if that's the case, it's like, well, fuck you. That means you're smarter than anyone else if you're stealing signs. Why is this a problem? And I want them to steal signs.
Right. Well, that was going to be where I was going to with my next one. I wanted to sort of punctuate and couch the first question with, I was at the game last season, or I guess the 2018 season, where Altuve had hit a 2-run homer, and a fan had been declared to interfere.
Okay.
And they called it fan interference, and they invalidated the 2-run homer.
Okay.
And that prevented us from going to the World Series.
Which, that's
against the Red Sox. I was in the stadium at the time, and I will tell you that when I walked into Minute Maid to watch that game, there was a collective zeitgeist. The atmosphere of the stadium was, this is inevitable.
That we're going to win?
That we were going to win this game.
Okay.
And that we were going to go to the World Series.
Foregone conclusion.
Right. And we were playing the Red Sox.
Right.
And to have that attitude against a team like the Red Sox seems pretty crazy.
What's crazier, that they have that attitude against Red Sox, or that we look at the Red Sox like that? Because the Red Sox were terrible for 110 years.
Well, right. They were, but they're on a pretty...
Yes, they've been on a good streak recently,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Past decade has been nice to them. So, but I will say that dickhead, I don't know if I can say that without being sued for libel. That'll be fixed in post.
I don't know if that's libel.
I don't know either. I got to look it up. Joe West, who's the coach who made that call. I mean, you want to spend time on YouTube looking at his bad calls. And I know that all refs had bad calls. That guy, there was almost a riot in New York during their division because he coached. He's just horrible for fan interference for that call. And when he made that call, it collectively sucked out the wind.
Oh, yeah. Those type of things can
of
totally...
the entire stadium.
And
you just
the team. Yeah.
felt 30,000 people just like,
well,
well
we're not
fuck.
We're not going to win. Fuck it.
And that was the second inning.
Yeah. Those things happen, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know how else to convey something like that to someone who's never been in a stadium with 30,000 other people.
Oh, yeah. It's palatable.
It is. And so having said that, we, for this series, we went. We didn't win. I'm okay that we didn't win because we lost to a better team.
Yes.
I did not feel that
in
2018. I felt like we lost to an inferior team. Now, regarding the trash can banging.
I'm not even sure what you're referencing.
That's how they say we're stealing signs.
Oh, okay. Well, what the fuck?
There's a tunnel
right.
in the dugout, and there's a trash can there, and someone's clanging the lid of the trash can while he's looking at a monitor. And what he's doing is he's looking at the catcher's signal for a fastball. And when the fastball comes, he clangs the trash can. And that's when it's time to... That's when the hitter knows, when he hears that sound, that's when the hitter knows when to aim for the fastball inside the zone.
Oh, okay.
So this is what some people have declared to be, quote unquote, and I'm not making this up, high tech sign stealing.
Okay.
Right.
That sounds like is that totally Russian KGB stuff.
And if you want to watch something even funnier, somebody, and I don't remember who it was, I saw this on Twitter, called in Pete fucking Rose to talk about sign stealing. If anyone knows anything about stealing signs and doing dirty shit in baseball, it's Pete Rose.
That's what I would think.
And Pete Rose found it laughable.
Yeah, I think it's...
He was trying to get through the interview without laughing. And this is not a friend of the Astros.
Right.
He spent his whole career making the Astros look like trash when we had the greatest pitcher in baseball history. Charlie Hustle would do anything he could against the Astros. Yeah. He walked all over us. But he was like, stealing signs? Okay, well, your second baseman can steal the sign.
Yeah.
And he can throw it to the hitter if they work out a predetermined signal. But if you're caught doing that, that ain't good. Like that's clearly against the rules.
Is it against the rules? I thought it
for the second baseman to do it, apparently, for anyone in the infield to throw signs to the batter, they can't have that.
Why?
They feel that the league's feeling is that it's cheating. Now, banging a fucking trash can. Now the thing is that the one batter who I can't remember which batter it was, but they had his batting average before somebody went through the whole 2017 season with this one batter at plate. And they said when you can hear the trash can on the tape,
he's at 330 or something.
His batting average doubles. Okay. So I don't want to say that there's nothing to this, but I also say every time I've been at Minute Maid Park, and I've probably been there 60, 70 times in the last 3 years.
Right.
Every time there's a mound, every time they talk to each other, anytime they whisper in each other's ear at the dugout, they got their hand up to their face to hide
what they're saying
from lip readers.
Yeah.
And if lip readers did not exist, they wouldn't be doing it.
Probably right.
So the Astros know that whatever team that they play against, there's lip readers.
Yeah.
And every team that they play against employs lip readers. So, or might. Yeah. Right. So to me, for one guy to say 3 years after the fact, we were banging a trash can for one hitter.
Seems a bit absurd.
It not only does that seem absurd and a little bit unlikely, but it also is kind of shitty that, okay, so you kept your mouth shut for 3 years.
But why? Yeah.
So you're a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say this at the time? Oh, because you wanted to go to the World Series.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I haven't followed that closely because I just haven't. But it strikes me as a big bunch of nonsense. And what you're telling me now makes me think, oh, yeah, I was right. Yeah. Big bunch of nonsense.
I'd like to know what Bill Simmons wants to say about it.
Well, he's a Red Sox guy.
Oh, he is. That is true.
So we know what he's going to say.
Yeah.
And I'd still listen to it, and I'd still laugh, and I'd say, But, he's a Red Sox guy.
What else you got, man?
Oh, I'm getting close to done. It's been 2 hours and 36 minutes, so I think that I've about had it on my end.
Me too.
I mean, we got Christmas coming up, and made it through Thanksgiving, so everything is pretty good on my end of the world. So all in all, no complaints and everything is phenomenal. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I think 2019 was a great year for film.
I do want to rerun that. I don't know when we can actually do it, but a year in review would be really interesting to actually just focus exclusively on that and go through some sort of,
That'll be the next time we get together.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't know when that'll be. It'll probably be
it'll be after Christmas.
Yeah, it'll definitely be after
for
Christmas.
Sure.
But, I mean, I think that you're right that there's a good possibility this was a tremendous year for film, even shit that I didn't see, but I feel strongly it was probably pretty good. Like I said, Marriage Story is one of those that, from what I can tell, is apparently excellent, and I am not going to watch, right? Which is unfortunate, but it's true. Midsummer is another one that.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to. Yeah, I hear amazing things about that.
It's very good, but it's one of those that I probably won't see, just because that's just not my thing. But I hope they keep making those type of things.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think you're right. I think 2019 is probably going to be one of those underrated years.
Well, I hope that it's the start of something. Like I remember, like when I was a kid, and if you've listened to this podcast, you know that I'm a huge fan of the 80s and the decade of film that was in the 80s. I was at the theater all the time, and obviously there's something magical and special about being a kid and going to the theater and experiencing all of that, and Ghostbusters and even Heathers and all of that. And then I was a teenager in my 20s in the 90s, and it just.
You were a teenager in your 20s?
A teenager in my 20s in the 90s.
Okay, misunderstood. Right.
In the 90s, I was a teenager and I was in my early 20s.
Right.
And I just did not feel the same magic. I just did not feel like I was drawn to the theater with the same purpose, with the same desire, with the same I got to see that movie this weekend. And
I'd really need to see it list.
It wasn't until about 1999. I guess it was about 99
was a weird year.
But it was like there was a run from 99 to about 2000.
Yeah, it was a weird time.
Yeah, 99 to 2000. I guess 99 to 2009 is what I was like. That 10 years, it just seemed like there's
always something.
There was a lot going on.
Right.
And then it was like we hit almost around the time the Social Network hit. There's like been a lull.
Oh, I definitely perceive something of a cratering. Yeah. I don't know if there is or not, but that's my perception.
And I suppose that if you're Scorsese or Coppola, you're blaming all that on Marvel. But the past 3 years, there's been some real interesting shit come out.
I don't think they
blame it on The Quiet Place.
Yeah, but I don't think they blame it on Marvel. My perception is they don't blame it on Marvel as so much as what Marvel represents, which is the lack of risk-taking and interesting stuff. That's my perception. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. Huh. Well,
I loved Iron Man 3. The idea of...
Really?
Yeah. And
it's pretty interesting, but I'm surprised you loved it.
I loved Iron Man 3, and I watch it repetitively, and I think it says a lot about the growth of Tony Stark's character. God, we've been hammering him, haven't we?
Totally.
And the idea of someone calling that not interesting...
But you have to remember, it's one person. It's one dude.
It's always one dude.
Right, but
there's going to be that one person who's fuck Star Wars.
It's like, I wouldn't expect my grandfather, if he was alive, to be all that interested in the Marvel movies. And he would probably be the same age as Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, generation gap. Yes. Yes. Generation gap.
Did you watch The Nice Guys yet?
No, but I hear it's phenomenal. Yeah.
If you love the Iron Man 3, watch The Nice Guys.
Okay. Very good. Why are you relating Iron Man 3?
Same director.
Oh. Okay.
Shane West. It's really good. Should we sign it off?
We should sign it off, man. Thank you so much for coming over.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Social Network with us.
No worries. Thank you.
I'm not going to tease the next episode because I got to talk to you about it after we turn off the mics.
That'll work.
All right. Thanks very much for following us on the Super 70 podcast. This is Dylan Davis.
And Dave Anderson.
And we're saying good night and good luck. Thanks for hanging out with Dave and I while we discussed beer, film, and baseball. The Super 70 podcast is an audio commentary meant to sync with the film we are discussing. You don't have to, though, and can go on listening without watching anything. I would, however, recommend that you watch the film we are discussing before listening to the Super 70 podcast. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Himalaya, and my website at www.thatdylandavis.com. I'm Dylan Davis, and we'll meet next time at the Tendra Spit.